Hey everyone, welcome back to Tabac Book Club. We're covering part three of Wizard and Glass from the Dark Tower series today by Stephen King. I'm your host, Andrew, and I'm joined here by my co host, Mr. Jash.
Hello there.
What's up?
What's up?
All right, we're pretty excited to talk about this part. It was pretty long. We talked about this offline, but we probably should have honestly cut it up into two slices. We didn't realize how long and like how detailed it'd be. But there's a lot to kind of talk about here. The first thing I wanted to talk about was at the beginning of this part. So Stephen King kind of talks about how Roland's in love with Susan and it's true love. So he kind of compares that to a drug addiction, like a drug addict. And in fact, he talks about it a lot. He's like, oh, Roland being in love like this is exactly, he has the same traits as a drug addict. He's going to act like a drug addict. It's the same thing as like Eddie being addicted to heroin or Nort being addicted to devil grass. So I thought that was interesting. I just kind of wanted
Yeah,
to bring it up and see what you think about that comparison there with like true love being a drug addiction.
yeah. So I would agree with that because like when I think of like true love or like your love for your family and such like that is when you worry about them when they're not around because you want to protect what you love, right? So if the person or people you love aren't near you, then and you like worry about them or like you really think about it and you can just like kind of just feel your heart or like your emotions like fluctuate a little bit, then you're just like, damn, I fucking love these people. So it's like that's like how I feel like with my family. Like if I'm home and I got like teenage siblings and it's like what if they go out and get like kidnapped or something, I'm just like fuck. So it's like the
Yeah.
way like how I feel like that's kind of like how I see it as like a drug addiction because it's like no matter what, if they like if they hurt me or something or accidentally or whatever, it's like I can't be mad at them for long. I think there was like a quote that I heard a while back. I can't remember who said it, but it's basically like if you're mad at someone for like more than like 3 days, then you probably don't love them. So if you like forgive them quickly or on and that sort of thing, then it's a better sign of showing that you probably in that way I would say yeah, it is basically love is a drug.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said there as well. I feel like especially early love too with like and in this case it's teenagers too. I mean, if you've never gone through that and you're just now becoming like at the age where you can experience those kinds of emotions for real and you start experiencing that, and then of course there's a sexual aspect, but yeah, like it makes you only want to think about that all the time, but also it kind of clouds your judgment a little bit, similar to drug addiction, where like a drug addict might not always make the most logical decision. They might make decisions based off of the drug, obviously, but like you're saying, with your family or with your significant other or whatever, you might not always make necessarily the most logical decision, but you're going to make the decision that puts your family or whoever you love first over other stuff, which is similar to a drug addict, right? Because they'll put heroin or whatever drug it is above other
And
things.
it's interesting that you brought up the point that it's like their first time uh feeling this emotion because it's like you know like when you're in like your mid 20s like we are, you know, you've experienced enough to where you can keep your emotions under control because you know as being a mentally stable person you realize your emotions are there and you don't let your emotions control you, you know, because they're just your emotions and you're like, you think through it. This is why I feel like this. This is why I feel like this. And you just work through it. But it's kind of like, you know, when a baby's hungry, it just cries because it's all it knows how to do. It doesn't think, oh, I'm hungry. Maybe I should just go eat something. No, I'm just gonna fucking cry. So, you know, because they're new to the experience. It's like
Right,
when we,
right.
you know, when girls first start going through puberty and the guys get all the testosterone and then they get angry all the time. You know, I remember going through this and it's just I'd just be pissed off for like no reason. I'm like, why am I so mad? I'm like, ooh, I just gotta punch something. And it's like we're just start with these emotions are so new that you're not experienced enough to control them in a healthy manner. And so then when Susan and Roland start falling in love, it's not only like they're experiencing this for the first time, and let alone having the sexual act between them both just enhances that because it's not their first time feeling all these emotions, and it's their first time doing it with somebody, and so there's a lot of meaning that goes along with all that. So yeah, I'd say Roland's pretty deep, pretty deep in, and
In
he's on
Susan and
the
in
love
love.
drug. Yeah. Don't cut your hair off, Susan.
I think
It's-
I agree with everything you said there, and I think this is where Stephen. One of the things he's a great author, obviously,
oh yeah.
amazing author, one of the best of all time. In
Oh
the
yeah, I love it.
yeah, like in the Hall of Fame. But I think this is one of the things he's really good at is writing like young adults coming into adulthood or just like, like these people like teenagers learning about new things. He describes
Hmm.
it very, very well and it's written very close to what it is like, I feel like. So,
Yeah. I mean
yeah,
that's
it's one of his strengths for sure.
yeah, that's why he's really known for the coming of age stories
Yes,
and
definitely.
like, I mean
It's yeah, a
the
great
body.
example. Yeah.
I have the body. I haven't read it. So the body is um it's Stand By Me. So the movie Stand By Me is the book is the body.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't read the book yet, but I have it on my shelf. It's really short. I think it's only like 100 and some pages. But uh yeah, Stephen King's known for writing character over plot. Like plot comes along with character. So he's more interested in writing how people are feeling and uh, how that leads to situations. So yeah, he writes people, and the people make the plot.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Character driven.
which yeah, some people claim it's word vomit, and sometimes like in The Shining in the book, it is. But the payoffs are usually always worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, there is even some moments in this part where I felt like it was a little bit of word vomit, but yeah, like you said, it really pays off when the big events happen to these characters and you have all that backstory like on their personality and stuff.
Yeah,
So
because like I kind of like compare it to like let's just take a week, like let's say we're in high school again, right? And there's this one week you're having a really bad week, and so for those 7 days throughout that whole week, it's just going through all the shit, right? And sometimes like you're reading, it's like, oh, that could be boring. But then at the end of the week, you have a boss fight, and, and
the
you're like,
principal shows up and you have
the
to fight him
principal
to
shows up.
death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you kill the principal, and then you're just like, holy shit, because it's like all, that last week of all that word vomit that you absorbed, and it took forever, and maybe it dragged a little bit, but the payoff just enhances the whole experience because then you look back and you're just like, damn, that's some good shit. That's
Yeah.
also how it's like with Wheel of Time. I feel the same way, but we don't have to get too much into Wheel of Time in a Dark Tower a Dark Tower video. So I'll save that for the next Wheel of Time series or
Yeah.
next book we go through.
Right. No, I agree with everything you said. And it does like you can relate to it as well as like a person reading the book about the characters because they're going through similar experiences like you said to yourself, but also like even just going through all the slog of the details like you said like the word vomit quote unquote for to get to the payout. I mean, it's similar to like real people's lives like you just said, You go through a bunch of detail, but then the payout is great because, that you have to have those little details in order to overcome something or whatever you need to get to. So,
And what I really loved about this first part is Cuthbert is becoming jealous of Roland
right. Yes.
and not and it's. This part I felt was very real because like you have some teenagers, right? And I remember when we were in high school, and it's the main thing was like, it wasn't about love or like any of that. Everyone was just like, oh, you got to get laid or you're not cool, and
Yes,
it's like,
absolutely.
and
As
it's
a
like,
man,
oh,
yeah, that's
that's
the
man,
male
yeah,
perspective for
it's
sure.
and it's like a lot of pressure and stuff going through. So it's like, and then once you get like a friend who starts doing it, then you're just kind of like, God, it's like, oh, now you're seeing them do all this, and it's like, damn, I want some of that. and it's so it's so cute. So with Cuthbert, like, I thought that was very real for like seeing how he's like, but Cuthbert's in more control over his emotions than I think any of us were in high school.
Oh yeah.
So
No,
yeah, oh yeah.
absolutely. I
So yeah.
absolutely. No, go ahead.
so like so for him to be jealous of Roland, but kind of realize he's jealous a little bit, he kind of holds back because he still respects Roland as like the leader and all that. But then he's like, God damn it. He's like, why do you have to be first at everything? And it's like, that's a very human thing. And it's, you can't help but be jealous. Like, if you're jealous, you're jealous. That's just your emotions. So you work through your emotions and you get over it. You just got to accept what you feel. And so, but seeing how they're still young and inexperienced with a lot of these emotions still, it's like uh how they react makes sense and makes it believable and makes it very relatable and interesting as a fellow man who has a wiener like them.
Wait, no
So,
way.
yeah, I'm cisgendered. Okay. so but yeah, so I'm like, what did you think about the Cuthbert being
I
jealous?
loved every part of it. And I agree with everything you say there, like, and it goes back to my other point too of like Stephen King being amazing at writing coming of age stories and writing like kids this age, like teenagers this age, and it's very close to like we've all been there, right? And at least from a
Yeah.
male perspective. I can't speak for the female perspective, obviously, but as a man who has friends, hopefully you had friends in high school. If you
Yeah.
didn't, I'm sorry.
If not, just listen to this
Just listen to this
podcast. I'll be your
podcast, and
friend.
we'll, yeah, exactly. You can be nerds with us and just read these books, but um, yeah, the it's very accurate. I felt it. Like it made me go back to like when I was young, like thinking about that. You know, it's very
Yeah.
realistic, and I love that. Yeah, like you said, I feel like he's more mature than most people of that age who are jealous.
Hmm.
Where he recognizes it somewhat. But like you said,
Yeah.
you can't really do anything about it. When you're jealous, you're just jealous, especially at that age where, like you said, you don't have any control of your emotions. You don't understand logical thinking as well. But also,
Mhm.
like, I love it too because it's like a snapshot of like when you're that age and you don't have as many problems. You know what I mean? Like when you're that
Yeah.
age, that's the stuff you think about because you don't have any other real problems. When you get to like your mid 20s, like us,
Oh, dude,
you got a slew of other shit to think about, man.
dude, yeah,
You're not thinking about
like,
this anymore, you know?
no, because like I've like like my some of my family's just like my grandma are like, when are you gonna settle down, get a girlfriend? I'm like, dude, I'm 25. I'm trying to get off probation for this stupid DUI and get a career going. So
Yeah,
it's like
definitely.
I got way more important things on my mind. Like I can worry about that later.
Oh,
just
absolutely. Yeah,
I'm just trying
it's
to not be poor.
I'm trying not to like die. I'm trying to like feed myself, like have money.
So yeah, it's crazy because it's like back in with, but at least Roland is like, not only he's like trying to do other shit, but like he's also just trying to get girls, or not only, no, he's not trying to get girls. It just happened. Like he has other things going on.
Right.
But I remember a lot of us at that age, it was either get high, drunk, and fuck, and that's it. So it's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
and then barely plan for the future. So they're way better off than anyone I knew.
Oh yeah, no.
But
they're very I
oh
mean,
yeah.
obviously they're like gunslingers in this story. So
Yeah,
like they're
so
like heavily trained, but
you,
yeah.
during high school I forgot the face of my father.
Yeah.
Like, but
Every time we drank
and
Fireball, I need to
God,
remember the
never
face of my
again.
father. Yeah.
God.
We're recording this on New Year's on January
Oh yeah,
1st, and
Happy
like,
New Year's.
yeah,
It's
Happy New Year. But also, yeah, like the idea of alcohol right now makes me want to die.
Yeah, I think I'm 25 and I'm already getting headaches like at like 9 p.m. So I'm just like, oh, I'm done. I'm
Right?
done drinking.
I feel that.
But a lot of so another thing when it comes to like sex in this section, uh so you have so it compare like I like the comparison between like the whorehouse stuff with Jonas and Thorin's sister. So you
Hmm.
like have their little sexual relationship going and you can kind of that they start to fall for each other, but it's not like as intense and emotionally like um, driven as Roland and Susan's. And
Yes.
I think that's a interesting comparison to two people who have been well past their first love and have had way more experience and have not only lost a lot of their innocence along the way uh, to where they ended up, but because they had so much experience or and all that, they don't care for each other as much as Roland and Susan do. Because with Roland and Susan, it's their first, so and they haven't had anybody else, so to them it's very special and strong. But to Jonas and I don't remember
Uh,
the Thorn's sister's name, but
yeah, it's
what's her
Olive,
name?
I think.
Olive, yeah. Well, I thought that was his wife. I don't
Yeah,
know.
one of them is Olive. The other, let me look it up. You can keep talking. I'll look it up while
Yeah. So, so like Jonas and Thorin's sister, like it shows that there's throughout this piece that they're starting to fall for each other and want to hang and do all their things together and end up together, but it's not as intense, you know. And I feel like something along that line, it's kind of like a little sad that it's like you can't like you've been through so much shit that you don't feel that intensity like you once had. Uh, but it's interesting to know that you can still get it. You just got to work harder at it. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I yeah, dude. I love that comparison there between the older couple and the young couple here. But her name is Coral, by the way. Sorry.
Coral. That's what. Yeah,
I
Coral. So,
or go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was saying there's a lot of people to remember, and I still got half a wheel of time in my head.
I
So,
know, right? It's tough.
no,
Like, God,
yeah,
I don't.
not
Yeah,
gonna do it.
Olive is indeed the wife. So you got it.
Hmm.
But I love that because I feel like they're different kinds of love, right? So like the teenage love is like all emotional, no practicality. No
Yeah.
practicality. Like the idea of this relationship, like it shouldn't really even exist, just on the basis of like what their situations are. You know what I mean? They don't think
Yeah.
about that stuff, right? But as like an older person, practicality matters like a lot because you've gone
Hmm.
through this already. You've gone through these relationships where it's all emotion and no practicality, and they usually don't end up working, right? They
Hmm.
usually end up fucking up. So like when you look at Coral and Jonas, they like each other, and if they continued, obviously they die if you read this, but or at
Yeah.
least Jonas dies, but
Spoilers.
spoilers, Jonas gets fucking murked, bro.
Marked. Yeah.
But yeah, like if they continued, they'd probably be in love or whatever. But their relationship was more based on practicality, right? Like Jonas was
Hmm.
had a certain plan, and Coral fit into that plan really well, and Coral was like a good accomplice to that plan. It was very practical as well.
Yeah.
So like when I think of like I guess my relationships were like in the beginning, it's like that, like this teenage type thing where it's mostly emotion, not a lot of practicality. You're having sex a lot, whatever. There's a sexual aspect. But then as you go on and you mature with age and with the relationship, you start to move more into like it's a different kind of love, right? It's just practical love. It's not that
Yeah.
like, oh, I love you so much, I love you to the end of the earth. It's more like, hey, you bring you bring value to my life, I bring value to your life, like we like hanging out with each other, we're actual friends, that kind of stuff. Like it's not just
Yeah.
like we're just having sex.
Yeah.
That's
Because I
basically what
mean,
this is. Like we're just having sex and like we like each other. But
yeah.
a real
Sorry.
oh no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you made me think of like so it's like Roland and Suzanne don't really have much in common. Like
No.
we don't know if they all they do is they think they're each other attractive and they bang, and then they're both just working on this case together. But that's about it. I mean, you don't really get much more in depth of like them having other things that they like have in common. And but Jonas and Coral do, like they both are have the same goal in mind. So
Exactly.
that when you brought that up, I didn't even think about that until now. So I'm like, that's
Yeah,
interesting. That's
no.
pretty good.
Then I would honestly
Like,
even argue like I think what you said is good too. Like it is kind of sad, right? That like after Roland and Susan experience this, it's probably never going to be the same, right? Because it's the first time, like you said, it's very emotional. They're
mhm.
teenagers. But I almost like think you have to kind of go through that. And it's preferable to have the more practical relationship where you have more in common, right? Like when I sit down with my
Yeah,
girlfriend, there's a lot of things we can do together that we enjoy doing together. You know what I mean? So like we
yeah,
can like play video games, we can go walk our dogs, we can watch TV, whatever, like the same TV shows. So like like you said, there's not really that much in common between Roland and Susan. That might not matter if Susan would have lived. Spoiler, obviously, Char Tree. Um,
yeah. Charlie tree.
but
Char means death.
but even though they don't have a lot in common, maybe they still would have worked out. They would have became friends in other ways later on.
Yeah,
But yeah, like in the beginning, it's less about like what you have in common and more like physical attraction, right? Like I think you're attractive. I want to have sex with you.
yeah.
So
That's why like
yeah,
everyone remembers like their first time, right? So
yeah,
it's special to everyone because it's like, your experience for the first time. So that just makes Roland and Suzanne's whole thing more. That's I think obviously that's why it's more intense than Jonas's and Coral's relationship. So
yeah. I yeah, I
and
completely agree. It's
we
like
don't need to go deeper into the philosophies
yeah, I'm
of
not
sex.
a yeah, I'm not
Yeah, but
a
yeah,
sex
I mean
counselor or relationship coach. I'm just a guy. But
I'm just a guy who listens to audiobooks
yes.
and that yeah.
A normal mid-20s white
That's what,
male who
so
listens to audiobooks.
yeah. You know how funny that is like we're all talking about like this deep shit with like relationships and we're like 25 and so like anyone over 30 is
Oh,
gonna be
I'm
like,
sure.
You haven't even been married. You haven't even
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure if like a
know
a 45-year-old listened to this, they would think of us the way that we think about Roland right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you think you know about this stuff? Like, we don't know
It's like
anything.
you don't know shit. Have you shared bank accounts? No, sir. And I don't think I will. Fuck that. Earn your own money.
Have you ever
We'll just
been
pay.
divorced and you've lost all your money? I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
No.
And then, I hate women.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be a simp then, bitch. I don't know. Don't be a Simposaurus Rex and just be yourself. Don't
Yeah.
be a you know. It just cracks me up. All right, we
Yeah,
get
we got to
back to
get into
this.
this book or else this shit's going to be forever. But
Yeah. All right. Should we just I'll let you take the lead because we don't need to
okay.
go through every single little
No,
detail,
I'm just
but
going to like pull out things that I think are interesting here. So, but
yeah.
I thought I love that whole conversation is really good though. I think that was like a good thing. And I feel like Stephen
Yeah.
King was trying to bring that up. Like he's
Oh
trying to
yeah.
bring up
Well,
that conversation. So,
this whole section is kind of about Roland losing his innocence and becoming the person who's obsessed with the Dark Tower, and
right. Yep.
that's exactly what we get. We get why he's like, Susan, just fuck the demon while Eddie gets
While
Jake
we get
out of
Jake
this
through this
door.
weird ass
Yeah.
portal
Yeah,
with
and
the
then so we're going from like this Roland to that Roland, and now
right.
it's like it's all coming together. It's
Yes.
the meme. All right, anyway, all right,
So I did want to talk about the ball, the pink ball.
yes,
Of course, that's a big part of this
these ping
story.
balls.
Obviously, but I don't know if he was just trying to go for like kind of more like some Lord of the Rings illusions. It definitely feels like the ball, reminds me of like the ring, right? Like
Mhm.
Rhea and other people who touch it, they kind of act like it's my precious type vibe.
Yeah,
And they start to die obviously when they have it in their possession, which is similar to the ring, right? You start to become, dead.
Golem.
Yeah, like Gollum.
Yeah, Golem. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to kind of bring that up. Do you kind of feel the same way, where it's kind of like kind of
Oh
this
yeah.
similar to the ring? Yeah.
I got um two different vibes from it, and it's all from Lord of the Rings too. So the pink, obviously, they call it like in other fantasy books, they call it like something different, like Wheel of Time. It's this would be like an Ungriel,
Yeah, Angriel or
Son
whatever.
Ungriel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's and in classic like D&D, like classic fantasy, it's just an orb, right? So, uh, and then in Lord of the Rings, what do they call it? Like there's like a specific name for the orbs that Tolkien
Oh,
has
the Palantirs.
planned to. Yeah. So yeah, so basically in the Dark Tower, like what do they call it? The Wizard's Glass.
Yeah, Wizard's
Uh
Glass, and there's that like Merle's rainbow or whatever. I can't remember.
yeah.
Yeah, and
The, like
there's all the
yeah, so
colors of the rainbow. This is the pink one or whatever, and there's other ones.
yeah. So this definitely is like reminding me of not only the ring in Lord of the Rings, but also the other like orb of Saruman that Saruman held.
Right.
Uh because spoiler Lord of the Rings, when Pippin picks it up when they're all sleeping like snakes and grabs it, Sauron gets a look at him and like thinks he's Frodo, and
Right.
uh and he's like, when it goes through that sequence, even like in the books, it's like Pippin's like, oh, it's he talked to me and he saw through my mind and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so in this it does the same thing, but the only difference is that the orb is itself a conscious magical being, rather than in Lord of the Rings where it's just a conduit for a being to speak to another being. So the orb itself is talking to Roland in this section. And so like the ring does to everyone it's around. So I thought that was a very interesting way of introducing a magical item that's pretty standard and basic in all of fantasy, and giving it a little twist where it has a mind and will of its own, which we don't
Yeah.
really know exactly what it does. I don't think. I think it's just like it like probably just sucks the energy out of you and keeps you addicted, just like the ring. So that's my thoughts on it. And I've really enjoyed the use of this item
Yeah.
in this section.
I love that you brought that up. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, like exactly what you said. The one ring in the Lord of the Rings being a conduit, and this orb being its own kind of being. Because yeah, it's described very frequently as having its own motives, which might not be the same motives, obviously, as the people who are holding it. And obviously, it's not with Roland, because it kind of doesn't tell him about Susan. We'll talk about later dying, until the last second, until it's like too late. But yeah, I love that comparison.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they what is Susan found the orb, like what was it, under the bed in like part
Mm-hmm.
2.
Yep.
And so and then I completely forgot about that section, but it's like of course, like it's just the storytelling for me is just like this little itty bitty thing where it's like, oh, saw this orb, and then like 5 hours of audiobook later, it's like, oh, this little part. I like how they were like, how like memory and like false memory can mess up like what you're thinking of and stuff, because you like remember a past event differently than probably how it happened, just because as time moves on and blah blah blah. So I like how they hypnotize her. So I think Roland or it was Roland or Alan. I think it was Roland said, Susan, we're gonna hypnotize you before you say or think anything else because we don't want to muddy your memories. And I'm like, that's a pretty good detail to think about when you're writing about stuff that happened in the past, because it's like we could have had it. We had a conversation like a week ago, and we were talking about it now, off of just memory. Then we could probably only like spark note it We couldn't go
Yeah.
word for word. It would be like, I think this happened. I think you said this, but we wouldn't like know for sure unless you have photographic memory. So it's like that whole
Yes.
section of just finding out about the orb and where it is was I liked it. It was very. I feel like it was very realistic in this way.
I like how you bring up the memory point too, because I'm sure you're like I've read about this with like you studying criminal justice, but people when you recall in your memory, unless you have photographic memory, like you said, you have like an insane memory. Unless you have that, like when you remember things, it always alters a little bit. I feel like there's like a lot of quotes on that where like every time you remember something, it just changes just a little bit, and eventually it's not. It's still like what it was, but it's not quite the same. And like
Yeah,
you said, when they're talking about when in the graveyard when they're hypnotizing her later on, they don't want to taint that with her trying to remember because it can kind of mess up your
yeah.
recollection.
Because it's
So
like,
yeah.
well, that and it's like another aspect of like when let's say a crime scene happens at a house, right? Police show up to the crime scene, separate all witnesses, and then interview them separately because if you have like two people there who witnessed the same event, a traumatic event, uh, and then you have one person telling the story, they could muddy the other person's memory and create false memories.
Right.
So, and so in this instance too, she wasn't like she has said that it traumatized her a little bit. Like she wasn't like like screaming and crying, but she definitely felt traumatized from the event being at the witches and stuff. So her mind probably wasn't in the most uh what's the word I'm looking for? It just wasn't at its best capability to recognize everything or process everything. So over time, she just looks back and she's like, "Oh, I saw this orb and she touched me and I don't really, know what else." So it's like so doing the whole hypnosis thing and before she starts spilling it out just makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I think I'm just rambling on right now.
No,
But
no, I completely agree with kind of what you're saying there. It's interesting with like talking about the trauma victim as well, like thinking of it as a trauma perspective, like you said, with implanting false memories on accident. Um, yeah, no, it's good.
cool. What's the next thing you got on your
All
docket,
right,
sir?
so I don't we just talked about this like a lot, so I don't know we have to go super deep into this, but I did want to note like Cuthbert when he's getting jealous and he gets more angry as the story progresses, he gets more angry. Obviously, he calls himself like the Eternal Second, and then he
Oh
imagines
yeah.
he calls himself a virgin, and then he calls himself the Eternal Second. Roland becoming the gunslinger first. Roland, having
hmm
sex first. Roland having his first love first, and Cuthbert's always the second one. Alen's a little bit more like even keeled. He's like an old soul. I feel like he's like
Oh yeah.
very even keeled, but and then Cuthbert actually remember he thinks of a scene of Susan and Roland having sex. Which I think we've all been there as men as well. Like that
Yeah,
really lends into the jealousy thing where it's like,
it's on your
yeah,
mind.
you think of those things when like somebody in your circle is doing that and you're not and you're like
Like they're
young.
not
So
hanging out with me as much, and they
yeah.
keep, and then you're like, what are they doing with her? Dirty little
Exactly,
bastard.
yeah.
It's like
It's
fuck you.
those thoughts you don't want to talk about, but everyone
Yeah,
has,
yeah,
at some point, which I think Stephen King is that's part of his like MO, obviously, like bringing up the
yeah,
stuff that you think about but you don't want to talk
yeah.
about.
Because I think about fucking you all the time.
Yeah. I think about. I mean, that's not a
Yeah,
secret. That's just
that's what. No. Oh yeah,
revealing.
you're.
That's told many times. We talk about it a lot. So.
Why do you think we're called Two Rivers Tabac, the
Yeah.
smoking pipe?
Yeah. I'm smoking more than just a pipe. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed to talk about that.
No, I don't give a fuck. but uh, but yeah, I
I
like
yeah. Go
it's
ahead.
super
Go ahead.
funny. I mean, we basically already talked
Yeah,
about all
I don't want
the
to go like too
jealous stuff.
deep into this
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it was
I did
just
want to talk about so I like this part that Stephen King did as well, where this whole arc, right, of Roland being compared to a drug addict because he's in love, and then eventually, obviously, Cuthbert punches him. But like,
Yeah.
um, it's all told from Cuthbert's perspective, Alan's perspective, other people's perspective. We don't really get Roland's perspective until he's punched,
Yeah.
which I think is cool because it kind of makes you wonder about Roland because at this point, we have a lot of Roland perspective up until this point, and then all of a sudden it's all cut off. So it kind of makes you like wonder, if Roland is making good decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was a really clever way of like making Roland seem untrustworthy. So
I agree because I feel like having everyone else's perspective instead of Roland's on this subject is like showing how dazed or how distracted and dazed he really is because
right,
there's nothing for him to really think about besides Susan. And
exactly.
so he's only thinking about like, okay, we'll do this Susan. Okay, we'll do this Susan, and we'll do this Susan. So it's like because he's in that state, showing everyone else's like inner thoughts and everything rather than Roland's on this subject is just uh I feel like I don't know if it was intentional, but it was definitely a good way of showing that Roland is not really thinking. He's just kind of on autopilot.
Yeah, yeah, autopilot. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good point too. I don't know if it was intentional. Maybe it wasn't, and like you said, Stephen King just was like, I don't have anything to talk about from Roland's perspective because it's the same thing right now. He's just obsessed
Mhm.
with Susan. So
Did you
yeah,
want to? I know you talked about. I don't want to say it because I thought you wanted to get into it, but it was like the part. Yeah, right there where
yeah,
your
the snake. Yeah,
mouse is. Yeah.
I skipped over that a little bit.
I thought you were gonna want. I thought you were gonna do it.
No, yeah, we got to do that. So in the same scene where Rhea, and we're backing up a little bit, the same scene where Rhea's like, I don't want anybody to take my ball away, my pink ball. I don't know, I don't remember what it's called, but I don't like
Pink
saying
ball
pink ball
gunslinger.
either. Feels like I'm talking about like testicles or something, but
Yeah, that's exactly.
everything's so fucking sexual with Stephen King. I swear to God.
Dude, chapter 48 of The Stand.
Yeah,
Read it. It's my favorite.
it's a classic. So the
Classic Stephen
snake,
King.
I don't think the snake is mentioned, right? Really, up until this point.
Well, the snake showed up. It was like a little bit, I think, but
Okay, I don't
it
remember.
wasn't that much. It was he was
Okay,
barely in it. So
okay,
this is one of the because this is one of the main parts where you actually witness the snake, before spoiler Roland kills it.
yeah,
So
right. Oh, we really witnessed the snake here, obviously.
oh
So
yeah.
it like climbs up Rhea's leg and like fucks her basically, and Rhea says, I don't
Why'd you
remember
whisper it?
exactly what she said. My note here is just she says the snake is the best fuck in the land. LMAO.
Yeah. As in, you just wrote nice Stephen King.
Yeah, very
Well, it's
Stephen
like
King moment.
there was so much shit that happened in this section that like you said before, we should have split it in two for videos, but we didn't, so we got kind of cucked. But because
Right.
this was one of those parts that I completely forgot about because there's just so much other stuff going on that I'm trying to remember
Yes.
that I'm surprised you remembered this part.
Well, I went back through like the story and I like tried to pick out fun stuff to talk about, but yeah, like this one we had to like put
Yeah.
in there.
So is it,
It's
so
disgusting.
far is this the first bestiality we've read in a Stephen King book? Because I don't know how many other Stephen King books you've read. I've only read like The Shining, obviously these Dark Tower books, and then In the Tall Grass,
Yep.
uh, maybe some others. I can't.
I can't recall any other instance that I've read where there's bestiality yet. I'm sure there's other books where there are, but yeah, this is like the first
Well, because you've
instance.
read it,
Yeah.
but I mean that sewer
I
scene
mean, there's
isn't
that weird
bestiality.
sewer
That's
scene, but yeah, that's not like with a fucking snake going up a vagina.
yeah, it's not bestiality. So I'm like, so this is like the first instance of bestiality in
It's
Stephen
just
King book that I've read.
I just would
So
never never think of this. Like I would just never think of a snake fucking someone. Like
well,
I just
well, I can kind of see it because she's a witch. She's creepy, and she's been horny this whole time. Like ever since we saw her, she's just like first scene she's in, she's just freaking flicking the bean. So
I am so
So,
excited to talk about when Shimi goes to her hut. It's
yeah, and
later
it's just
on, but
yeah.
yeah, this witch is
She
so
tries to
fucking horny. It's so funny.
yeah. So it's like she tries to fuck Shimi, and Shimi, mentally retarded. So it's like, and then he's even creeped out. He's like, "Fuck no." He's like,
Yeah,
and
that's
she's, I could be anyone you want with some mushroom juice or whatever the fuck the potion was called. And Shimi's still like, "Fuck no." So I think it was shrooms. I think it was
yeah, it
something.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah. So to be honest. I'm not the least bit so surprised that she would do this.
yeah.
Especially like the way how disgusting she's described
I guess it's
and
it's
her
not
house
it's
is with
not
all
like
bird skulls everywhere.
surprising to me. It's just hilarious that Stephen King thought of it. I guess because I would never like when I'm writing. If I was writing a book, I would never think of that. Like that would
I'm
not be in my
I'm putting
brain.
this in my book for
Yeah,
sure. 100%.
yeah, you should. God, just copy
So
paste that whole scene into your book and just change the name.
oh my god. I think I could get sued. I don't know. Could you imagine that court case? You're getting sued because you copied a passage of a snake fucking a old
Yeah, it's
woman.
like, Your Honor, I only copied one paragraph. I've never copied anything else. I just
And
really
and
love this the snake sex scene.
in my defense, Your Honor, I I don't know what to say. It's just there. All right.
All right.
Uh,
Um,
all right, cool.
so this is the rest here that I got here is more like exposition stuff. So just to kind of recall, the boys devise a plan to tell the sheriff, okay, we're gonna count stuff on these days to try to get them to move. You know, the oil and all the weapons and stuff, so they can catch
Yeah.
them. Cordelia tells Jonas about her suspicions with Susan Rowland having sex, and then another weird. There's just a lot of weird Rhea scenes in this
Oh
fucking
my
part.
God,
But the
yeah.
part where Rhea starts licking the cat.
I had to rewind
Um,
that part because I
yeah,
thought it was the cat licking
me
her,
too.
but
Me
but
too.
then
I had to
yeah.
reread that as well, or rewind it because I was like, oh, the cat's licking her. Wait a minute, no,
Wait,
she's licking the cat.
yeah. And her yellow tongue
Yeah, I heard the way it's
slobbered all over her
described.
cat.
It's
I'm
just
like, ew, fuck.
nasty.
I'm like, god damn.
So gross.
Uh,
But yeah, she gives it a
yep.
message. And then later on, Jonas gets the rook skull, so like the little bird skull from Cuthbert.
Yeah. So Jonas finds it in
Yeah,
where the thinny is, like during that big hole. No, no, no.
it's near the
Or
oil
was it there?
tankers.
It was near the oil tankers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
because he suspects that the boys have been there, or
Yeah.
yeah, and he gets
Yeah.
that
I
suspicion
think
from
it's
the Cordelia telling him about Susan and him. He's like, oh, I think
and
maybe he's hiding some
yeah.
other shit, and then he finds the skull.
So, which is interesting because at first, we were told at the beginning they're like that skull's gonna get us in a lot of trouble, and
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's like when I look back about like about Susan dying and like all this stuff is mainly because of Cuthbert being associated with this bird skull, and then them using the bird skull of Jonas using the bird skull to frame the boys for
Yeah.
Thorin's death. So if Cuthbert wasn't dicking around all the time, then maybe Susan didn't have to die like that. I mean, there still would have been them going at each other and stuff, but I don't think the townspeople would have been behind it like they were before because there'd be nothing to convince them that they're bad people.
That's a really good point because yeah, then Jonas wouldn't have as much knowledge as he did at that point as well to like create this cascading set of events because Cordelia would have just told Jonas about Susan. He would have been like, I need to go check the tankers because I feel like he's hiding more shit. Wouldn't have found the skull and then probably wouldn't have known that they were at the tankers. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, it's a really good point. It's all Cuthbert's fault, this motherfucker.
Yeah, fucking Cuthbert.
Such an idiot. No,
Like,
he's one of my favorite characters, but yeah,
yeah.
like that was that definitely.
And I can kind of relate to Cuthbert a bit with like the like joking thing
Yeah.
because it's like I just feel like when situations and stuff like that occur, or not, well, I'm not saying I get in situations like Cuthbert, but
Boy, you don't
like
have to blow up 500 oil tankers, lead 200
uh,
guys to their death. You get.
I don't have to be jealous of my friends getting laid because I don't care.
Well, you
Like,
don't
all right,
imagine
cool,
your
bro.
friends having sex with their girlfriends all the time.
Oh well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I'm just kidding. But but it's like I can get his character more than like Roland's and Alan's, just because like for me like I would like personally resonate with Cuthbert's way of dealing with things, with jokes and
Right.
such.
Yep.
Uh, and then like I have a brother. I got a lot of brothers, but I remember one of my brothers like would remind me of like Alan, or Alen or whatever, because he's more quiet and super introverted.
Hmm.
And I don't have anyone like Roland. Roland's just badass. I don't have any
He's
friends like
his own
Roland.
beast. He's his
He's his
own.
own, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you get those people out there that are like, oh my god, I'm like so Roland. I'm like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
whatever. I
If
don't
you were
fucking believe
Roland,
you.
you would be the president.
Yeah, if you were Roland, you'd be fucking, you'd be, I don't know, probably Texas. I don't know. I
You'd
don't know,
be doing
somewhere
something more than
Texas.
commenting that you are Roland.
Yeah, Roland doesn't need to. It's just like
Comment that
James
he's
Cameron.
Roland.
It's like James Cameron does what James Cameron does, not because James Cameron can. James Cameron does what James Cameron does because he's James Cameron, right? So with that, Roland wouldn't say like someone who thinks they're Roland wouldn't be Roland if they said they're Roland, because Roland is Roland because he's Roland, not because he is Roland.
Right. He doesn't need to.
That
He doesn't need to
does that all make
compare
sense?
himself. Yeah. Like he just is. It's kind of like,
Yes.
yeah. Like if you are Roland, you don't need to comment that you're Roland. It's kind of like if you're like a fortune teller. It's like you don't need to be a fortune teller. If you're a fortune teller, you'd be a billionaire and like
Yeah.
fucking. You wouldn't be giving fortunes at the like thrift store or whatever. Like you'd just
Yeah.
be rich and fucking
You,
off on a beach somewhere because like
you wouldn't
you could tell
you
the
wouldn't be
future.
that like you wouldn't be that asshole on TV who claims to talk to the dead and then be's like and is like, oh, anyone here whose father recently passed, you know, and then you have like five people raise their hand, you know, fuck that guy. I forget his name, but like yeah. Anyway, okay. Anyway, what's next?
All right, let's see here. So yeah, Jonas obviously trashes their base. Like he goes to their camp and trashes it, like in a very
Hmm.
dramatic ways too. Like he like
Yeah.
shoots his snot on stuff and like like wipes it
Oh
on. It's
yeah.
just like disgusting. It's like why don't
Wipes
you just
on kids' boots.
yeah? Why don't you just like destroy
Like
it? I don't.
gets what does he get? Like some blood and like writes get out of here.
Yeah, he takes like the
Uh
pigeon blood and like writes it
yeah.
on, and yeah, he kills the pigeons.
Yeah, he kills yeah.
Obviously to
And
try to
then
get them to confront him.
this part was really cool afterwards because well like he finds their guns, right, and just
Yeah,
puts them back.
right,
Uh but then like Roland's the only one who like knows that he's doing this thing, and so it's pissing the other two off. Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'll go back to it because I want to talk a little more deep into that. But Alan basically has The Shining. It's called, I forget what they called it. What they called it in the
the
Dark
touch.
Tower?
Yeah, they call it the
The
touch
Touch.
in this. Yep.
So the Touch is The Shining. Uh, so you know he's feeling all this shit, and then Roland, they all eventually go back when they're done doing their stuff and find out what happened. They're like, Roland, if you knew the whole time, what the fuck? Why didn't we stop him? And Cuthbert's getting all pissed, and Roland's like, they're doing this to draw us out and get into our emotions, and it seems that it's worked on you. And Cuthbert's
Right.
like, oh, this fucking dickhead. He's like, you're saying that after you've been fucking drugged up on love. And he was pissed. But in a way, Roland was right and he was wrong. Because, like, Roland was right in knowing what they were trying to get out of the three. but he was wrong in not telling them beforehand because like if he would have just told them about the situation and he's like, this is what they're gonna do, this is what they're gonna try to do, and we're not gonna fall for it, but we're gonna let them think so we can get ahead, one step ahead of them, right? But he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't really realize this until after Cuthbert punches him. So
Yeah, and I
then
think
he
they
starts to think about it.
Stephen King kind of talks about that too. Even like I'm pretty sure with Cuthbert and Alan like talking about that, right? He's like, "You're wrong in this way, but you're right in this way." So yeah, that's exactly
Mhm.
correct.
But
I do want to talk
but
really quick about the side quest of what we talked about earlier. Shimi having being forced to take the liquor to Ria.
oh yeah,
So it
all
happens
right.
like that passage happens right between these events. But
Mhm.
my note here of Ria offers him shrooms and sex, to which he refuses.
Mhm.
LMAO.
Oh man. Yeah.
Just
So
I could that shit when she said that I I think she literally said like I can turn into anything you want or whatever. I
yeah,
lost it a little bit. It was so funny. I
dude.
just I
I
died a little bit.
I literally I thought Shimi was gonna be like, can you look like Susan Delgado? And then I literally thought that's what he was gonna say, but
Yeah.
he didn't do it. All right, so
Shimi's
I'm proud of
awesome.
you,
Shimi's
Shimi. Yeah,
like
I love
how can
Shimi.
you not love Shimi? He's like
So,
awesome.
this is what so like I haven't read like a whole lot of stories where there are like mentally retarded people in it, but Stephen King so far has like quite a bit so from the stuff I've read, and I think he does it very well, you know, because he like writes them in a way to where they're still like they're sympathetic and they can actually like do stuff. And so and obviously there's a spectrum, uh but with the way like Stephen King writes them, it's not like he's like writing up someone like this and just making them the fool of jokes and such. Like there's actually purpose behind it. And I
Yeah,
like
definitely.
and you know, and that goes back to when like Stephen King writes about rape is that whenever there's like a scene with rape, there's always a purpose behind it. Like he's not just throwing it in there. So I don't know, how do you feel about him using like people on the spectrum in his stories?
I completely agree with what you're saying. I think he focuses less on their disability and focuses more on like the value they bring and like what they can do in spite of the disability,
Yeah.
which I think is how people probably should view people like that. You know what I mean? Most people don't, obviously, but
Yeah. Well, even in the story, lots of
yeah,
like
most
Jonas and
people
all of
don't.
them,
Yeah, I
no,
mean,
they're calling him retarded of left and
oh
right.
yeah,
So
DePape was just gonna kill him over like
yeah,
just spilling a drink on him. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's written fairly well. I'd be interested to hear like someone who has a close family member or a friend who's like on the spectrum or something and seeing what they think as well. But like from my perspective, um, yeah, I think it's written
yeah,
well because it doesn't like you said it doesn't focus on the disability. Of course, it's mentioned and like you know he has a he's mentally retarded, but like um, it doesn't really necessarily stop him from doing things. And like you said,
yeah,
of course, there's a spectrum. Obviously, Shimi is fairly high functioning. Like he can do a lot of stuff that maybe others cannot, who are like you know on a different part of the spectrum. But yeah, no, I like the way it's written.
yeah. And and another thing, I really do like how it's not preachy about it either, because like nothing gets worse is like when you have like characters that are not what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to be like major PC. I'm just trying to like get my
No, no, totally
words
fine.
right.
No,
Uh,
absolutely.
so like using like other types of like not as normally functioning people or
Right.
even how like some writers and stuff use like gay people in their stories is that like that's how I like how Stephen King writes them is it's not like too preachy about anything and their whole disability or their sex or whatever it's not their personality trait is what I love because like because if they he brought Shimi in and completely made him a character where his entire personality like completely revolved around his disability, it would just be like, oh Jesus Christ, like I don't know if I it's just too preachy for me. I don't know if I can do it, but like he's used tactfully in the story. He's useful.
Yes.
He's a person for he's like, you
Yes.
know,
He's
so
not just like there because he's like you said the butt of the jokes or he has a disability. He's not there just because of that. He's
yeah.
there because he's like a legitimate part of the story.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I appreciate about these books too. Is that we can it can be diverse, which isn't always like a check mark for me, you know.
Right.
Like I don't care about that. But when it is, I feel like it's handled like Stephen King handles them right.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, like you said, Bert Keith Burt reacts to Jonas destroying their base, and he's like, "Yo, we need to go like kill Jonas, or like we need to go do something." And Roland's like, "No," and they get in a fight again. And then Len's like trying to get them not to fight, and then eventually Bert just rides out on his own, and that's when he finds Shimi because and I forgot to mention in the previous part, uh, Rhea gives Shimi a letter to give to Cordelia.
Mhm.
So he finds the letter, Cuthbert does, and he reads it. And then the next scene right after that actually doesn't talk about that confrontation that we're getting to where he punches him. It talks about Jonas meeting the man in black, and then it goes back to that scene. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Give
So
me some the dark man,
the
the
dark,
tall
the
man,
tall
Randall
man,
Flagg.
Randall.
Except he's not Randall Flagg in this story. He's Walter,
Right.
in the TikTok man.
Or he's Martin, right?
Martin,
His other
yeah.
name. Yeah, he has so many fucking names, but
Dude, yeah. It's well we can oh, I can't wait to go into more lore detail about the Dark Man because you just need to read the stand so we can
yeah, I
talk
know.
about it.
One of these days, for sure.
But
Definitely want to.
but because this character, like I've said in a previous one, is that like the Dark Man shows up in multiple Stephen King stories. I've only read The Stand and the Dark Tower series, so I haven't read his other books that involve him, but I want to. But like every single time he's on, like on the page or whatever, it's just like I know exactly who they're talking about because his personality and stuff is the same in every book, or at least the ones I've read. So
Yeah.
I just love it.
The way
He
he's described is very creepy. Like I like the way he's described because like he laughs like somebody who's dead, which doesn't make any sense. But like it's and then the other ways he's described, like he isn't always the same person when you look at him, and like when he touches you, you like it makes you want to die, like you want to like get away from him. He's just
yeah,
the
and
epitome of
he's
a demon, I guess. But
it's it's interesting seeing him across different books because in this book, it's more fantasy driven, like
right,
realistic fantasy. Uh, and but then in the stand is like complete realism, like they have their prophecies and their like uh and their faith and like God and Satan and stuff. Like it has like that aspect too, but it's more grounded in reality, which whereas in this book leans more fantasy. So it's interesting seeing this same character in two, I'm not going to say completely different uh, kind of stories. Well, I mean, there are completely different stories, but in two different kinds of medium, I guess. Would that be more? Yeah.
yeah, no, it,
So,
yeah, I just got to
because I
read
feel like,
the stand at some point.
yeah, because it's weird. Because I feel like he fits like perfect in this fantasy series. So when you go read The Stand and it's more grounded in reality, you're just like, oh, it's like it's even more creepy because it feels more otherworldly. Where in this scenario, he feels more at home. Like it feels more natural. It's like having Sauron from Lord of the Rings, right? So it's like having putting Sauron and like Nancy Drew, right? It's gonna be creepy as fuck because you're like because you're
Yeah, it's
you
quite
know
the addition there.
yeah it's like
The Dark
uh
Lord and Nancy Drew.
and the Nancy Drew in the Eye of Sauron. It's like
Sauron, what are you doing over there? I'm trying
what
to
are you
solve this
doing?
mystery.
Oh,
I will
oh,
bind you.
Amon Amarth. Shall go. That's Mountain Dew. Well, anyway, that's okay. We're getting off topic, but that's just kind of the vibe I get of the Dark Man, and I love it. So,
Yeah.
but we can want to go through the scene a little bit, or
The Man
like,
in Black scene or the
yeah, yeah.
um.
But
I'm trying to remember the details. I know.
you think you got like most of it, really?
Yeah, because he meets the Man in Black, right? Because the Man in Black works with the Farson guy, right? The rebellion guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
and well, I guess now we know why Roland was hunting Walter down,
yes.
kind of, because like,
Yes.
yeah,
We can
uh,
kind of start to see how he's tied in to the tower search.
but then isn't that crazy that think about like when we go to the first book, Roland's like an not necessarily an old man, but definitely of middle age, I would assume.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's like 14 or 15 right now. So it's like, does he get obsessed with Walter as a teenager and then spends over half his life hunting him down and doesn't even like reach him until like the end of the first book. So
Yeah.
you're like, damn, that's a long time.
Yeah, man. I hope that it elaborates a little more on when he starts that journey. But yeah, I mean,
Well, we got
knowing Roland, I wouldn't
4.5.
be surprised. Oh yeah, true. We
Yeah.
got the wind. Isn't that the wind through the keyhole or whatever?
Yep, went through the keyhole. And
There
that's
you
a
go.
lot shorter, so
Yeah.
that could probably we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Well.
But
Yeah.
yeah, love the Dark Man. Read the Stand, chapter 48.
Yeah, I'll have to read it sometime. I like that he meets Jonas and stuff, and you see how he's kind of tied into this a little bit. So going back to the scene we're talking about a lot already, but the camp scene where Cuthbert, sucker punches Roland. He literally is like, "Oh, come look at what I got to show you," and then he just punches him in the
Yeah.
face.
He's like, I hope this doesn't ruin our quartet. And if it
Yeah.
does, then that's just caw.
Right. He shows him the letter too from Shimi, and it's literally just like he's been in all her holes or something.
Yeah.
I
It's like
was like, what
the,
the hell? The witch wrote that to give to
the
Cordelia or whatever. So it's
yeah,
kind of funny.
it was super funny. Well,
Um,
yeah, because
and
like I can just imagine like just being a teenager again and being so emotional, and it's just I'm just like God, it's
God, I'm
cringe.
glad I'm not like that anymore, right? It's like,
God, I'm so
God.
I hate as a teenager I was like God, I kind of want to stay a teenager forever. I don't want to grow up because it's like you want to grow up, but you don't want the responsibility of growing up.
Yes.
But once you finally start getting that responsibility and get your shit together, then it's like, fuck yeah, I'm an adult.
Yeah, man. I mean, just the headspace alone of being, and I'm sure people were like 40, like listening to this and be like, "You're fucking like 24. You don't know what the
Yeah.
hell you're
You
talking
live
about."
with your sister.
Yeah. But at least
Oh, sorry. There
comparing
you
it,
go.
like you're like thinking about my 24-year-old brain compared to like 16-year-old brain, or like in this
Oh,
case,
yeah.
Roland's 15. I mean, like it's just nice to not be
Yeah.
so. I don't even know. Like you're just in a whirlwind all the time. I
hmm
don't know.
You
So
know, you know those letters back in like freshman year of high school that you would have to write to yourself, and
yep,
then like when you're a senior, you got it back.
yep,
Well, I was cleaning out my desk today to like dust it off and like clean it, and in my in my laptop bag, I found a letter that I wrote myself in 2013 as like a
Wow.
freshman in high school. I like read it, and then I read it to Jessica and James, and dude, my God,
Was it
just
funny?
it was cringe.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I
everybody's
was,
gonna be cringe, looking
oh
back on
yeah,
that.
I
Anybody.
was,
Yeah.
I was like, as a freshman in high school, I was just like, God, I was such a fucking weeb. It's not even funny.
Was a weeb? No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm
No,
joking.
okay.
There's nothing wrong with being a
I,
weeb now, man.
there's
It's
nothing wrong.
mainstream now. Fucking
Well,
celebrities are
like,
weebs now. So.
like, well, it's different. Like, I still read manga because, like, I still read, but I don't have all the time in the world to just kind of sit there and watch 500 episodes of an anime. It's like, I do other
Right.
shit now, so I don't have the time to do that. I can read the manga faster than I can watch the show, so I don't even really watch anime anymore. But when I was like reading this, it was like it was like I said, you just watched 175 episodes of Fairy Tale in 3 weeks. You need to slow the fuck down. I was like, oh my God, I really slowed down from there. I would skip school to watch One Piece.
Oh my god.
Like, anyway, we're getting way off topic. But anyway, this is just
No,
what
it's
I'm
funny.
thinking of. This is what the learning about these teenagers, like rolling in them, is making me think of because I'm less like because like compared to like 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds who are reading this series, we're closer to when we were teens than they were. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
a lot of it is more fresh in our minds than it would be for like a 50-year-old. So
Absolutely.
that's why for me it's just like I'm like oh my God.
And like we talked about, I mean, he's so good at writing these coming of age stories that really you relate to it. Really,
Yeah.
I did at least. It makes you think about all those things.
Oh,
That's hilarious
but
that you found your
yeah.
letter though. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It was
I
like
wish I
four
still
or
had
five
mine. I
pages.
don't know where the fuck it would be at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, you could write one now, and then in 5 years we'll look at it.
No, dude,
Yeah.
I might actually do that for
You want
real.
to do it?
I might. Yeah, we should. We should do
Yeah.
that.
I have
Honestly,
Microsoft Word. I'll do it.
yeah, I might
That'd be
fucking
so
write
funny.
it, and then I don't know if I want to put it on this channel, but
Oh yeah.
I'll maybe I'll put it. I'll put on like if we do this 5 years down the line, I'll read it on the channel to
Yeah.
myself.
Well, it'll be way less cringe for
It'll be a
now
lot
because
less
it's like, what are
bad.
you doing? Well, I have at least 7 more months of probation before I can join the military and use my bachelor's degree. So, nothing. I'm not doing anything. But I think
Uh,
I just find like random questions on Google. I find some weird questions and like answer them. Talk about
yeah,
stuff.
dude. I think I'll do. I actually think I'll do that for real. Yeah,
All right,
that's a good
we're doing
idea.
it
We
after
should
this
do it.
video. We're writing one.
Yeah, we'll do it. Um,
They're like, "Can you just talk about the dark fucking tower
yeah, for
already?"
real. I mean, if you're gonna listen to this podcast for like actual in depth analysis, you come to the wrong place. So
Yeah, we try.
we try. I think we get good points in, but yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you're gonna.
I think we have like the best podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing,
No, I'm just kidding.
dude. We're so good.
Like I'm basically like a throbbing piston right now, like bigger than a weasel.
Oh god.
God, I love. Just read whoever's listening. Read The Stand. Just do it. The extended edition. Don't be a pussy.
It
Read the extended one.
it is like pretty much universally like said it's his best book, right? Like most people think it's his best one.
Oh yeah,
So
lots of people consider it to be his like magnum opus.
yes, that's the word I was trying to think of. Magnum opus.
Isn't that quite the word?
Yeah, that's how you know we're
I
really smart.
I went to college.
I went to college. That's hilarious.
So where are we? Lost
Okay.
track.
He punches him in the face.
Yeah.
He's been in all our holes. Made me laugh. Roland.
Uh,
So yeah, this is where Roland. We finally get like a little bit more like I don't remember when it starts giving us his perspective again, but after this is like when Roland kind of comes out of his little daze, and he's like, "All right, hey, I'm sorry," and
mhm.
Bert's like, "I'm sorry," and they make up.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty nice because like he's he's like, I will risk our friendship to snap you out of this, but then like
Right.
Cuthbert's kind of being a dickhead about it too, because like he's we keep saying this, but
They're
like they're
kids. Yeah.
teenagers,
There's
yeah,
fault on both sides. You know.
yeah. So it's not like if they were an adult, all Cuthbert would have to say is, hey, uh, think you're being hypnotized by love too much and getting off your game a little bit. You might want to check that or think about it. And then as an adult, you'd be like, maybe you're right. Let me think this through, and yeah. But then
Right.
as like a teenager, it's just like, how dare you? I'm not
Yeah.
blinded
You're
by
just
love.
jealous I'm having sex right now.
Yeah, you're jealous that you're a virgin and I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just a kid, and life is a nightmare.
Crawling in my
In the
skin.
skin.
These
So it's like,
words, they will. Yeah, no, we get it, you
not
know.
he all. All right.
Insert emo band lyrics, you know.
Welcome to my life.
No, it's honestly it ended up being pretty good considering their
Yeah,
age. I feel like a lot of friendships in high school are ended on this exact issue.
yeah. That is
So,
one thing I did like about our friend group too. Is like sometimes I mean me and you have had some spats before, but
oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's you get over it,
It's part of
and it's
the
like for the
yeah, it's part of
experience.
the gig.
Yeah. So it's like that I like think about this and I'm like, yeah, that's remember when you punched my couch?
Yeah. I think I was actually 15 as well then, too.
Yeah.
I don't think
That
I would
was
have like if this exact situation happened, I don't know if we would handle it as well as them. Like obviously they're
Oh,
like
definitely not.
gunslingers. But yeah, I
No.
literally punched a couch
Yeah,
when I was drunk. So
we're retarded. we
yeah.
like at least these people like these Stephen King has because they have that uh face of their father thing, they're gunslingers and they're they were raised differently,
Yes.
we're we're pampered in Shawnee, Kansas,
Yeah,
we're
we
just
didn't have that
brats.
the training. We just
Yeah.
we just punch couches instead in my case.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. What's next?
So I like I'm gonna like reiterate I guess this theme which you already brought up, but like the idea that all of this shit could be prevented. So like the
Hmm.
rook skull, if you wouldn't have left the rook skull there, none of this would have happened. If Cordelia wouldn't have told Jonas her suspicion, none of this would have happened. Then we have another situation where Susan's death could be prevented if they would have just killed Rhea. And
Yeah.
like and Stephen King even talks about that. He's like, if they were full gunslingers, he kind of goes like,
Hmm.
third person for a second. He's like, if they were gunslingers, they probably would have just killed Rhea. Like his dad or like, Alan's dad or Cuthbert's dad, they probably would have just killed Rhea at this point.
Yeah. Like she's a
Um,
crazy witch who
yeah,
has a
yeah,
powerful orb,
yeah.
and it's like, what's the
Exactly,
point in, she's obviously up to no good. As a gunslinger, you put your duty before yourself, right? So,
exactly. Yep. And but they're 15, right? And he talks about that
yeah.
too, where he's like, 15-year-olds aren't exactly jumping out of bed to shoot someone. I mean, that's a pretty tall order.
Yeah.
So they go to the hut, they go to Rhea's hut, and they threaten her instead of killing her. And then he shoots the sex snake.
Yeah, like the snake is trying to grope Roland and like it just
Yeah,
jumps at him and Roland's like blam
shoots it.
and yeah, Roland's
Which
like
again shows you how fast he is. Because I mean,
yeah,
imagine shooting a snake in the face like that. I mean, a snake is insanely
yeah.
fast.
And not only
Honestly.
but it snuck up like behind you like
Yeah. Right.
and just came at you and then let alone just just being quick enough to do it. And even like Roland's just like, "Ooh, if I was a second off, I'd be a dead man." Just like, oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, they don't kill her. Which, if they did kill her, it might have not prevented some of these other events, but it would have at least maybe prevented Susan dying, at least at the
I
hands of the
yeah,
villagers. So like, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I think so. So too. That kind of the last half uh with like the witch goes to Cordelia, and then we get into that part. I don't want to skip ahead if there's stuff in
The
between.
Witch Cone of Cordelia. Yeah, that's way farther in there. We'll kind of
Okay,
get into
yeah,
that. I can
I'll
move
wait
on
on it.
here. So this part, these notes I had were just basically like, all right, they're laying out their plan, right? So like Jonas and Coral lay out their plan to frame the boys killing the mayor and Reimer, the chancellor, and then the
Hmm.
boys reveal their plan to destroy the supplies, destroy the tankers, and then lead Jonas and his company into the canyon to kill them with a thinny.
Hmm.
So you got like the two, you know. I like the way that was
Yeah,
laid out too because you have you have the antagonist plan, then you have the protagonist plan. It's like, okay, how are they going to shake out? So it's kind of
yeah.
cool to like compare it. But
It,
we already talked about this, but they make the connection where the pink ball and this magic rainbow, which he found out from his dad, actually. Like we have a flashback where his like dad talks about it.
yeah, and it's like what these flashbacks are kind of good because I don't know if Stephen King has planned it out beforehand, where he's like, okay, before I write this section, Roland's dad told him about this orb, or if he was just writing and then he gets to a point where he's like, plot hole. All right, how do they know about this orb? Oh yeah, Roland's dad talked about it. And doing it this way, I feel is more like, regardless if he thought about it beforehand or not, it's definitely more fluid with the storytelling. Because if we had to like stop in chronological order about every single little thing,
Yeah.
then it would
God.
get monotonous. It'd be like okay, I love Lord of the Rings, love it. No one can deny that I love it. Love the books, but
Nope, you hate
goddamn,
it.
I
Oh
hate it.
yeah.
I hate it. It's terrible. But it's like the first beginning of Fellowship of the Ring goes through the entirety of like the Hobbits'
Their
history,
families,
the
yeah, like
families, and like all this
fucking
stuff,
everything.
and and that makes sense back then to do it because that was the way things were written, and it and it became big. People were more lore driven at I guess at the at the beginning, to get in the world, which modern readers are more into the world building comes as the story needs it. So, uh, so I guess that's a little comparison there with like Stephen King not going through every little thing before it gets to the parts, or he gets to stuff like this, and he's like, okay, I need to just flash back. You know what I mean?
Yes, and it goes back to something you've talked about a lot, which is like Lord of the Rings is written like a history book, while like this book and like Wheel of Time and other books we've read are written more like a story, like an
Yeah,
actual. Which of course Lord of the Rings is a story too, but it's written more like it is literally like supposed to be like a history, like Middle Earth is supposed to be, like what the world was
yeah.
before.
Just
So
just follow the lore. It's not that
yeah,
hard. It's
oh my
right there.
god,
Just
how do you not know everything about the Sackville
yeah.
Bagginses?
I mean, seriously. I mean, the Bigfoots, the
Yeah, the
Sasquatches.
Harfoots. Yeah, the Sasquatches,
I don't know.
the fucking hole diggers.
Bro, the do you even know about the Balrogs of Morgoth, bro?
Those are
Do
hype
you
though. Those are cool.
They are hype, yeah.
Those are
Basically a
cool.
frog demon.
Yeah, that shit's sick.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so yeah,
So
talked
what's
about
up?
the rainbow. I just wanted to bring this part up because I thought it was kind of cute. But like, Shimi is involved in the plan as well, right? And he's gonna bring the fireworks to Cuthbert. Then he asks for a reaping fair kiss from Susan. Pretty
Yep,
cute.
that was cute. And then
And
she
then,
kissed him like on the side of the lip.
yep.
Or was it?
And then she fucks him, and then,
Yeah. And then Roland's like, no.
oh yeah, and then Roland kills Susan, and then,
And then fucks Shimi.
yeah, that would be
And
a way
then
better ending,
yeah,
honestly.
he's like, Shimi's like, no. And Roland's like, I'll give you a dark tower. And then shits on him. All right, anyway. So
Yeah, and that's exactly how it goes.
yeah. All right. So
Okay.
for next time we're reading part 4 of the next.
Next time we're
Anyway,
reading Susan, whatever that girl's name was, Sarah Mass about the sex scene.
uh, yeah, so yeah. She kisses Shimi on the not full on the lips, but like the corner of his mouth, and he's like yippee, and she's like woo.
Yeah, cute
Yeah.
moment. One of the only cute moments because it gets really real.
Yeah. And then we get to the part where the boys were told by like I don't know if it was the sheriff or like Jonas and them. I can't remember who told them, but they said that the festival like people don't like the outsiders and stuff at the festival, so for them to stay put.
Yes, and I
Uh,
forgot to write that detail in the notes, but yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And then when they talked to Susan about it, Susan's like, "But that's not true. We love outsiders at our festival."
Right, yeah, and it's like super obvious, which like Jonas is trying to play like they talk about the game of
Thrones.
castles a lot, which
Game of
I feel like
Castles.
is like chess, right? So
Yeah.
like yeah, he's kind of playing a chess game between, Jonas and uh Roland.
Hmm.
Because he's like, oh, we don't let outsiders out there, but then like Jonas knows that they know that, so he's trying to make them think, they're gonna move it on this day, but he's actually gonna move it on another day, like that kind of shit. So.
Yeah. And actually like talking about the board game itself, uh I love games within books and stuff because it's like because like I don't we don't know like if this game is like actual like chess just called something else or if it's like
Right,
similar to chess.
right.
Uh so now I'm just kind of like I just want to play this game. What is this game? I want to buy it.
I know,
I want
right?
to play it.
That's one of
Uh
the reasons I love. Well, this is really off topic, but The Witcher 3, the video game, it has a
yes.
game within it. Yeah, Gwent, which is pretty fun. So
So yeah, I've played a little bit of The Witcher 3 and a little bit of Skyrim, but I'm trying to beat Elden Ring, but then I haven't played in 3 months because I don't have time for video games that much anymore.
exactly,
But then
you
yeah, and then
all you
when
can think about is your friends having sex. So
yeah, just constantly I get home from work and I'm just like, gosh, oh yeah.
man, which of my friends is fucking right now?
Oh, I wonder what my friends back in Kansas are doing. Ooh. Anyway, I'm glad I'm in Arizona, but just hey, is your Google Docs thing an ominous frog? I
uh,
just noticed that.
no, but yours is anonymous Ifrit.
The fuck is it, Ifrit?
I don't know. I'm about to look that up because I don't know what the fuck that is. Because I've seen like frog makes. Oh, you're a demon.
What's it called? Offrit?
Ifrit. Ifrat. Put it in the description.
Ifrit definition.
Yeah, it's like an Islamic demon.
The the fuck
They
Google
made you an
Docs?
Islamic demon. What the hell?
I'm so
It's
confused.
so weird. Like a
What the
frog is.
hell?
I've never seen that. I've seen like sheep, frogs. 'Cause I
No,
use Google Docs for work like all the time. But like, yeah, Ifrit. What the
I never use Google Docs like ever. So this is the first time. You're anonymous frog. Sorry, it just cracked me. I was like, what the
It
fuck?
is really funny. It is pretty funny. This
It
Ifrit
was
thing
funny.
is sending me because I don't know what the hell that is. Why they
They're
did that.
often associated with the underworld and identified with the spirits of the dead, and have been compared to evil genii, Lassie, in European culture.
I guess they just think
Yeah, it's
you're
genie.
like a genie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not a demon, it's a genie.
Well, even genie could be a type of demon.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on your lore.
I guess they know that you read Stephen King, so
Yeah, they're like,
who are you, Randall Flagg?
you're in the tall man,
The
the
dark
dark
the
man.
man in black.
You want to know how I got this black? The fucking dark man.
Yeah.
He's great. Randall Flagg. I love his shit because I just have this picture of just like this big shadow man. Like like the theory, like that demon thing, like the shadow people. I just kind of think of like a big square shadow demon with like his teeth pointy and white, his eyes real cartoony and big, and his like fingers like like in Samurai Jack.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
what are Akaiyu or whatever what the
I
fuck his
can't
name is.
remember the names, but I know like the
Uh,
art style.
yeah, so like I just think of those fingers, like those long fingers, kind of like in the Grinch, the live action Grinch.
Yes. Yep.
So like just that's just what I picture. And then when people like kind of half see him, but then when he comes into view, he's like a human. So he's like the demon, like is he's a demon in a human's body, and like he
Yeah.
just goes in and out, and his body morphs. It's just very cool. And it gives you just enough detail for you to like picture it yourself. You
Yeah.
know, make up
Yes.
your own kind of thing.
Yeah, it's enough to leave up to interpretation,
Mhm.
which I
All
like
right.
when authors do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I'll move on here so we don't take too much time. So yeah, they carry out their plan, right? Like Reimer and Thorn are killed by Jonas and his men, and they get framed by leaving the Rook's skull. And I think they do some other stuff to try to like make it further obvious that the boys did it in framing them. Um, so that all ensues, and then so Roland and his and Cuthbert and Alen are, I think they're looking at like the oil rigs or something like that, but Jonas and his gang actually just sneak up on them and like capture them.
Yep.
And it's so easy that like Roland talks about it in his brain a lot where he's like, man, I can't believe I was like so stupid to like allow this to happen. I'm never gonna allow this to happen again. And you see more
Yeah.
of like Roland becoming who he eventually becomes, which is like this relentless killer
Yeah.
who's like insanely smart. But in this case, he doesn't consider them just sneaking up on them and capturing them because he doesn't think that Jonas is like doing that. But yeah.
If I live 1,000 years, this will never happen again.
Oh, is that exactly what he says?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was one of the so one of the people I know who read this series told me about this scene. Not particular detail by detail, but all they said was Roland gets captured. I mean, and we already know it's probably more obvious he's probably gonna get captured because he's
Right.
new,
Mm-hmm.
and then he says that line, and so I knew as this was building up, I was like, oh, this is the scene.
And this is another thing that we haven't like talked about, but I feel like is reiterated throughout this too, is like teenage certainty. Like when you're a teenager, you're like way more certain about things. Like the way you think about the world, you're like, oh, this is how it works. And I know this is how it works. And you get a little bit
Yep.
of that with like Roland and his plans and stuff. He's kind of more certain than he normally is as an adult. Like he's like, oh, this is definitely gonna be the way it happens, but it doesn't always necessarily, like he doesn't have as much contingency
Yeah.
in his brain, which leads to this, right? Him getting captured. But
Like as like they're they're so young and inexperienced that they and like even as like a kid, it's like I remember in like middle school or high school, I couldn't even really think beyond like going to like after college because everyone pushes college and then all that. So so in your head it's like you either have a plan to get a job right out of high school or go to college, and it's like you're not really like I don't know for everybody, but I know at least I wasn't prepared for after college. You just have that goal beat into you about going to college, and you're not really thinking about your future after that. So I feel like that kind of mindset of not seeing so far into the future kind of goes well with this scenario about them getting captured because they didn't even think they would. They're
yeah,
scared, right? And
right.
they know some of them are, they know they're gonna have to do some big boy shit, but and that they might die or whatever, but they're gonna do it anyway, but they're not like really thinking through everything like someone who's older would.
Yes, definitely. I
So,
I think that's spot on. So that happens. And then I also just wanted to mention like Roland insulting Jonas and being like, "Oh,
oh
you were
my god,
exiled," and like the way
yeah,
Stephen King describes it is good. It's like Jonas is like suddenly becomes like this man into like this little kid, like being pissed
hmm
off and stuff. But yeah,
and
we
that. Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, you
No,
go.
no, go ahead.
I say like that's a great comparison between the boys and the men when it comes to experience. Is like Cuthbert and Alen are getting angry and uh about like shit Roland's doing and stuff, right? And they end up just like punching him to like daze him out. uh Jonas and them capture Roland and them, and Roland, says his shit to Jonas, and then Jonas is just like, he's like, yeah, I'm pissed, I'm angry, but I'm not gonna kill you. He's like, I'm not gonna do this. He's like, we're gonna stick to the plan, and it's like, it's really is a comparison of people. Like, as an older person, Jonas is in more control over his emotions and situations like this than Roland and his friends are, because you know they just don't have all the experience and all that to really handle these emotions properly.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that scene as well. Yeah, where instead of, even though he wanted to kill him emotionally, logically, he's like, I'm not going to do that because I need to stick to my plan. Which a child would not do that. A child would just kill him.
Yeah, yeah. Child would have gave into their emotions and
Yeah,
been, which are what's compared to even like the coffin hunters act like children.
yeah, because they're
You
kind of
know,
stupid, right? Like they
yeah,
kind of just
and they
follow
give
Jonas around. Yeah,
they give into their emotions real easily too, because they're just like, yeah, I was wanting to kill those boys ever since they made me look like a fool, and it's just kind of like, wow. So if you were gonna, that's real childlike, because it's like uh, you're out there and someone steals your lollipop or something, and then you're like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. It's like
yeah. It's
a
just
little
an
extreme.
extreme emotional reaction to.
Yeah.
You
So I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot of good character comparisons you can do, because there's a lot of interesting, unique characters all around. No one feels exactly the same, so it's fun to compare
Yeah,
everybody.
definitely, definitely. I'll talk about this like side quest scene, I guess, where Rhea was like looking through her ball, and I believe Stephen King talks about this, but it shows the ball is clearly like malevolent because it'll show bad things that happen most of the time in the ball. Like it'll show people like doing incest, like you mentioned that. It'll show people like killing other people or like doing other bad things.
Mm.
Um, and there's a weird scene where I feel like it's just a Stephen King scene, just a weird thing. But Rhea's looking at the ball, and there's like what is described as what would be like a middle class mom by society standards, like licking the corners of her floor in her underwear.
Yeah.
Just because she's like crazy, like she just has this weird thing that she does.
Yeah, and she's like, what would it be like if her kid came home and saw that?
Yeah.
I'd just be like,
Just another one of those things where it's like just weird things that Stephen King I feel like thinks about. Like I feel like he was just thinking about like what would be a weird ass thing that people do when nobody else is around.
yeah,
And
like,
yeah.
what do you do when you're alone?
Yeah. I
You
lick
know,
the corners of my kitchen until my tongue is
uh,
bloody. So
dude,
that's what I
I
do.
I fuck snakes and stick
Yeah,
them up my
dude. It's
ass and
hey, Ermont's the best fuck in the land.
or my,
So he's
oh,
really
I
good.
know.
He's
You
really
know,
good.
oh, I know. No Vaseline.
Yeah.
Listen to
Yeah.
some rap. And I lick cats.
Yeah, that's also really fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
really good. Good protein.
yeah. You need it.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I need a. I gotta eat something later. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm gonna get dinner after
So
this.
completely off topic. All right.
All
If you
right.
hear some noises, I'm just eating a cough drop that's on my desk.
Oh, no
Here, one
worries. Are you
second.
sick right now?
No, I'm just I just want to like snack on something.
Oh, that's fair.
Very good.
Okay, so Jonas and his two men, after they capture the boys, they go to Rhea and they try to get the ball back because Farson, is eventually going to want the ball, the pink ball back.
Hmm.
And Rhea's like, I'm going to smash the ball if you try to take it from me. Like, she holds it over her
Yeah.
head. And she holds it over her head in a way if they shoot her, it'll fall and break, right? So, like, they're like,
Hmm.
okay, fine, you can just come with us. So she just comes with them.
What's interesting is she's like, "Oh, this ball's heavy. I don't think I can do this for too much longer." And
Right,
then
yeah. She's
Jonas
like,
is
kind
like,
of.
just gives in.
Yeah, and I think Stephen King
Oh,
mentions that
jeez.
where like and at this point she looks like a corpse. I should
Oh
mention that
yeah.
as well. At this point she's like like emaciated by the ball. Like the ball is just like
Sucking
sucking her
her
dry,
dry.
sucking her more than Ermont, clearly.
Yeah, Ron, yeah. She's
Um,
basically Golem at this point.
yes, yeah, that's kind of what I
Or
thought. Like
Golem.
that's what I kind of imagined, like a female golem.
Smeagol.
Yes, Schmeagol.
Robert says.
So chaos ensues. So like and again, it's kind of confusing because it kind of jumps between perspectives. But after the murders of Reimer and the mayor, that chaos starts to ensue among the village because two people have been found dead, obviously, and one of them is the mayor. So
Mhm.
Susan rides out and she encounters Cordelia, and I guess I should mention, they've been fighting a bunch, and this is where like Cordelia starts to like go off the deep end. Like she's just kind of insane at this point. Like
Yeah.
up until this
Yeah.
point, she sucked. Like she wasn't a very like you get like stepmom from Cinderella vibes. Like she was just like not a good person. But
Yeah.
she throws ashes all over Susan and like cusses at her and stuff and curses her. Is like I curse you. Um, she's just kind of a psycho. At this point, I feel like.
Susan's like, I'm not even. She's like, I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just
Yeah,
done.
she's just like, you know, um, which man, like, I mean, Stephen King really does make you feel bad for Susan because I mean, obviously, and we'll get more into this at the end when the Charyu tree, fucking she dies,
Hmm.
but she
Jar.
doesn't really do anything, man. Like she's just killed for basically existing, right? She's like a 16-year-old
Hmm.
girl. Her dad dies. They lose the land that they own just because of the weird rules of the time where like they can't buy the land, I guess, or whatever, they can't afford it. Then
Yeah.
is coerced and basically forced into this agreement where she has to fuck like a 60-year-old guy to get the land back. And then on top of that, her stepmom is horrible to her. And just because she doesn't want to have sex with the 60-year-old and wants to have a relationship with someone her age, her aunt treats her like shit and she is eventually killed for that. It's like that's
Yeah.
just like a normal teenager's life, man. Like why the
Yeah.
it's just
Like
like she doesn't do
the ant.
anything. She doesn't do anything wrong and really at
Yeah.
all.
Literally, it's it's literally she dies over jealousy.
Yeah.
Like the
Oh
the
yeah.
witch is jealous of her for her youth and all that, and then
And the
her
aunt
aunt
is
is also jealous of her. Yeah, they're really just the women are just jealous over her youth.
yeah, which, kind of ties into
Which
I
is
guess jealousy is just kind of a big theme of this because obviously we have the jealousy with Cuthbert as well. You have the male
yeah,
jealousy there too. But
and then even with like Cordelia, because the Cordelia says like she's a virgin too, but she's
yeah.
well past her prime. So even Jonas like doesn't want her, and like she likes Jonas, and Jonas is uh fucking Coral,
Mm-hmm.
right? Coral.
Yep. Coral.
So
Yep.
uh so it's kind of like the witch is just a horny bastard who's just jealous of the pretty youth she has, and Cordelia is just jealous. I feel like because I just think no man wanted her. Why else would she? She always like brags about being like the virgin stuff at her age, and but I feel like it's just an excuse she made because no one wanted her, and
Yeah.
she held on to it too for too long and didn't do anything with it. Uh, and then ended up just being too late, and she got to an age where no one wanted her.
Yeah, which it kind of makes you feel a little bad for her at least from my perspective up until this
Yeah,
point though where she
it's,
starts just
yeah,
being insane. But
sympathetic
yeah,
villain, you know.
yes, yeah, definitely.
But the witch is not sympathetic. She's just
No, she's just like
nuts.
pure
No,
evil. Yeah.
yeah. So,
um. So yeah, then Susan, like you said, she like actually says, I forgive you. Like she doesn't care anymore about her aunt. But she breaks out the boys with Sheenie's help, like because they're in the jailhouse, and they have the cool scene where she goes in there and she shoots the sheriff, and then shoots the deputy, to get them out.
that
But yeah, go ahead.
was cool. I liked how in the book it's like and it was like and when the gunslinger looking person like started talking, it was like they were purposely making their voice deeper. So I could just imagine like one of my sisters or something just doing their male voice and just going like, "Oh, you son of a bitch."
Yeah, you son of
It's,
a bitch.
you son of a bitch. So I thought that part was really funny because
Yes.
like I have a sister around Susan's age, so I'm just kind of like thinking of like my little sister doing like a little man accent. It's just really funny for me.
Right. Um,
But yeah, so they break.
breaks him
So
out. Yeah. Go ahead.
do you want to like talk about this scene a little bit more in depth? Like we don't have to go like super, but like how like Susan has to like confronts with killing somebody,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and
So, yeah.
she's just like not a fan. She's like, this he wasn't a bad guy. He was just in,
The
I
wrong
didn't want to kill
place,
him.
the wrong
Wrong place.
time.
And
Yeah.
then Roland's like, well, he was in the fucking way. So you gotta know what you gotta do. You just gotta kill him.
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever.
you get a little bit more of like Roland just being like, just do whatever you got to do to achieve your
Yeah.
goal, regardless of
It was
what it is.
if it wasn't him, it would be us.
Right,
So
exactly. Yeah. Which, like, I think she said like she didn't care as much about killing the sheriff because the sheriff is kind of a dick, but
yeah.
the
Yeah.
deputy is who she really cared about because the deputy was like similar in age and like in fact like grew up with her and everything and like
Yeah.
you know
I shared a kiss with
yeah
him
and like
behind the
shared a kiss
barn.
with him like she like actually liked him as a friend so it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of rough, which kind of shows like I guess kind of ties into the love is a drug thing again where she's like she's willing to kill these two dudes to like get her love out of the jail,
Yeah.
you know.
Would
um,
would you kill to get uh your
what,
love
Holly, my
out of
girlfriend, out?
Holly? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if she was gonna
Like
get executed, yeah, probably,
yeah.
honestly, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta do
Which
it.
he was gonna get executed. Of course, they've only known each other for like fucking a month. I've known Holly for like
Yeah.
6 years, so
So they've known each other for like 3 months, okay?
right.
3 months. I mean, what's 6 years to 3 months of your first love or
I
whatever?
think I think I would be rolling though in that situation where it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna kill these guys. I mean, I'm not gonna
It's
let
like,
my girlfriend just die.
yeah. It's like,
So
Holly, just kill him. It's them or me. Just Holly's like, I don't know, and then all you'd have to say is they beat dogs, and she'd be like, all right.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say you could just say that, or like she would just bring the dogs and just bring
uh,
6 of them and just attack them.
she's a Pokemon trainer.
Yeah,
Dogs.
Pokemon trainer. Talia,
That's
go. That's one of my
Tally.
dogs. Use freak out from
Use
anxiety.
free- use eat your food.
Use run away because you're scared of everything.
Yeah, I could not imagine Talia
Yeah, Talia
like
is
fighting anybody.
super anxious all the time. Rhea maybe.
Like,
Rhea would maybe
uh,
stand up, but I don't know. She's kind of
like,
a baby too.
your dogs are funny.
Yep.
Anyway, so they get out of prison.
Yeah, they get out of prison.
Sorry.
I wanted to bring this point up. We don't have to go too deep into it. I know we still got a ways to go here. So Susan recognizes that she loves Roland, but maybe if Roland hadn't been around, or maybe if Roland hadn't, approached her first, she could have loved Bert
Yeah,
as well. So you got kind of an interesting, you know, I don't know, like
yeah.
thing you could think
It.
about if it went out like that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, it's always like those like when people say, "Oh, you got to find a soulmate," and it's like there isn't really like one person you can like cling on to and stuff. Like it could be like there's like like if you have like five people right in front of you, and let's say like out of those five people, like three of those people like you can have a happy relationship with. So it
Yeah.
just depends on who gets there first and who you decide, and ultimately just comes down to fate at that point if you feel like it, or whoever you meet first. So if she would have met Cuthbert first, then instead of rolling, maybe, maybe it'd be a different outcome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think that ties into like high school as well, right? You know, you're
Hmm.
well, not tying into high school, but tying into being like that age, right? Where you're
Yeah.
gonna date the people who are around you, right? And whoever's there first, that might just be. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Like you can have a good relationship with many people, right?
Yeah. 'Cause
Each
it's
each
like,
person's different, and the relationship will probably be different depending on who you're with. But you can have a happy life with a lot of different people. So
yeah, just depends on that. You know what that means, fellas? Just gotta get out there and
just get
talk.
out there, yeah.
Just
If you're
get out there.
feeling down,
You're feeling
just
down, just
go into mid world and find yourself a Susan.
yeah, just find it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's easy.
Just go up to any 16-year-old and start talking to her. Oh God. It's interesting too, because like when I talk to my sister, like I have a lot of sisters, so my older sister about this, she's like, I'm not like a huge fan of Stephen King because of all, well, not I'm gonna say huge fan, but she's like, I don't like all the teenager stuff, that happens, and especially with like the 16-year-old being wed, like made to like give birth to a 60-year-old's kid. She's like, it's gross, and I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point. Like,
Yeah,
it's the whole
which
point of the story,
honestly
you
is
know.
fair.
So yeah,
Honestly,
it's
that's
fair.
fair.
It's
And
not for
like
not for everybody.
we just had this conversation in another video, but yeah, like, there's value in reading a book that doesn't have this stuff. Reading like uh, I don't know, like a
Yeah,
different kind of
but
story that's not so dark. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing
like when
wrong
you
with
read,
reading. Not, sometimes I don't want to read super dark shit either. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like, I totally get it.
it's like I love The Hobbit, and there's not,
Yeah, that's
you
like,
know,
yeah, it's totally
the
PG.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the darkest thing that happens in The Hobbit is well, spoilers. Skip
Yeah.
skip like 30 seconds ahead or something.
Right.
Thorin. All right, Thorin dies. There's your spoiler warning. And that's like the darkest thing that like happens in the book, you
Yes.
know. So
But I
all
agree
right.
with what you're saying of like when you're gonna read Stephen King, you
You know
know
what you're
what it
getting
is.
into.
Yeah, and your
Yeah, you know
sister
what you're getting
saying,
into.
your sister, saying like I know what I'm gonna get into and I don't want to do that, and like that's fair.
Yeah,
I
I
like
understand. But then they read like weird kinky shit, and I'm just like the only difference is that with Stephen King, it's a snake
that.
or a throbbing piston.
Right.
It's bigger than a weasel type shit. Like that's but then like they're reading shit about like way more detailed sexually, just not as weird.
Different strokes for different folks, pun intended.
Yeah, I guess.
So
Yeah, I guess so. Uh, this last, see, like, looking at these notes for this like last section, I know it's like not that much more,
mhm.
but it's still a lot to talk about. So,
Yeah, we can
which,
or
so
go
I
ahead.
don't know how you want to go through it because, like I said, like whoever's listening to this probably has read the book, so we could probably just skim over a big chunk of
Yeah,
it and
yeah,
then
we could
just talk
skip
and just
skip ahead
talk
a little bit
about
here.
what we like. Like we can like just like read through it all and then we can just kind of conclude or like
Yeah,
talk about everything
I
that we want
agree.
to talk about.
No, I agree.
And then
Let's.
next time we'll split this up into like something like this into two parts. I
No,
think
I agree.
it'd be
This is
better.
already. I do want to. So, just looking through the notes here, I did want to kind of talk. It gets so like it goes from like 0 to 100 so fast, right? So like
Yeah.
after they blow everything up, and then Susan's captured, whatever, and then Rhea is sent away in the cart and encounters Cordelia, and then like the way that Rhea gets her vitality back is like Cordelia cuts her like stomach open or whatever, and she just drinks her
Yeah.
blood. I'm just like, oh my god, like
Like
we just went from like this weird witch lady who fucks snakes to like, oh no, she's like a demon, like she's a vampire,
yeah.
like she's like actual pure evil, like
Yeah.
it's
Right
just
right after Jonas and them get the ball away from her and then travel a little bit and then they're like, "All right, get the fuck out of here." And
right.
she doesn't know, so she leaves. And she's like, "Well, I got nothing else going on, so let's just fuck up Susan Delgado." So she
And
goes,
let's just talk about like what Susan has done. She's
"She's
done nothing.
nothing."
Nothing. Cordelia is literally allowing herself to be sucked by a demon to kill her niece when she's done nothing.
Yeah,
It's just
the,
insane.
it's like all she's done is found a well, I don't know this healthier
Healthier than
relationship
fucking a
with
60 year old,
Roland.
that's for
Yeah,
sure.
well, yeah, okay, yeah. Nobody put it that way. Yeah, so it's like, and she's so Cordelia is just a selfish bitch. She's like, I'm gonna use the pretty hot youngness of my niece to get this land back and gain power within this small town,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Uh, and then over time, like that's all she has. Like if this, because like she said, she doesn't have a man. Uh, and in this scenario, the women don't. The only power the women tend to really have is either you're a witch, or you're young and pretty and you marry in, and you know
yeah,
that's just how this town is.
yeah, pretty
So
much.
Cordelia is old. She might still be a virgin, but she's not described as the prettiest woman. So a lot of the men here who have money and power aren't gonna be like, obviously, like they're going for Susan Delgado, the young pretty ones. They don't want the older woman. So when she finds out she loses control of her power over Susan, she has nothing left. Like, what is she gonna do? She goes crazy because like Susan Delgado was her last option at having being successful in this town.
Yeah,
So
true. That is a good point how you kind of describe that that's her last shot, like to be something, right? Rather than just be nothing. I mean, I'm sure of course also Rhea has some influence, right? Like she's a witch. I'm sure she like kind of could cast a spell a little bit like
yeah,
but yeah, it's pretty drastic to just let some fucking witch, suck you off
yeah, like
blood
literally cut your
wise.
belly open.
Literally cut yourself to get just to kill your niece. The end goal of that
Yeah,
is to kill her niece.
and this
It's just
I like.
insane.
I do like the trope that was used though of like blood like rejuvenating like the demons or like the evil people. How it's like
Right.
use the blood of the youth to stay young type of thing.
Yes.
So and I haven't really read anything about like a classical witch in a long time. So this has been like a fresh of breath air for me. Especially going from Wheel of Time when the witches are, the Aes Sedai are the exact opposite of what a traditional witch is.
Right. Yeah.
So, and going in like 8 books of Wheel of Time, about to start our ninth, and uh, and then reading this, it's like, oh, that's a pretty fresh idea, even though it's not necessarily a fresh idea, but for us, for at least for me, with what we've been reading, it's been enjoyable.
Well, when you're like super nerds like us and you read so many fantasy worlds and so many fantasy stories, or like not even just read, but like, play video games, whatever it is, it's nice to just like have just a straight up witch,
Yeah,
like there's no fucking weird twist to like try to make
yeah,
it different because every fantasy writer tries to make it a little different,
yeah,
um
to make it unique.
make it unique, which is good, which is good for the genre, but sometimes it's nice just to like, in this case it's just a witch,
Yeah,
she
and it,
yeah.
yeah, and it works well in Stephen King's world that he's built here.
Right, yes,
So
yeah.
like it doesn't feel out of place. Like if honestly, if we had like an Aes Sedai show up in this town, it'd feel weird because it's just not how this world works. You know?
Exactly, yeah, like a different kind of witch from another fantasy story would not, or like any kind of female like sorceress would not really fit necessarily. So.
Let's see.
All right, so I want
Uh,
to talk about the scene where they like kill Jonas the Pape and all the men because that shit was just cool. And finally he
yeah,
kills Jonas. It's like, all right,
yeah,
finally Jonas dies. But like, yeah, when they like at the beginning they like guerrilla warfare, like fucking shoot at him a little bit, like go back into the trees, like fucking come back out.
yeah. Like,
It's only, and you gotta think about this. Of course they're gunslingers basically, but like, it's 3 15-year-old boys versus like how many dudes were there? Like
it
40,
was like 30.
30, yeah. plus Jonas, who's like,
Listen.
I mean, he wasn't able to become a gunslinger, but he's been trained.
Yeah.
So like, um,
And he still
yeah,
got fucked up. Like I don't
yeah,
even think
that
he did like anything.
no,
He just
he
he just
just
got
like,
fucked.
I feel like yeah, and he just like knew he was gonna die. And the
Yeah.
scene where he's like shoots his hand, so he drops the ball, catches the ball, shoots him in the face. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh
I
shit.
was like, damn, Roland.
Yeah.
Fuck it. And he's like, Jonas like grabs Roland. He's like, the blood of Jonas was soaking Roland. And I'm just like, oh, well, okay. I don't remember how it was described, but
I feel like anytime
oh,
there's death in Stephen King, like when somebody kills somebody else mortally, it's like there's just blood everywhere.
yeah.
Just gets and it gets on all the characters too. Just like yeah.
Oh yeah, I think like was it Ellen or Cuthbert who got like scraped with a bullet?
I think it was Alan. Yeah, he got shot
Ellen,
like in the cheek a little bit, and then um, I
yeah,
think
and
Stephen
they,
King said it's gonna like be a scar forever or whatever. But
yeah, it was a really interesting like scene. I think I was at the gym when I was listening to this part, but it was basically just absolute chaos. I mean, the gist of it is just, you already said it. They
yes,
came out, killed everybody, and everybody's just like, "What the fuck?" And then Jonas is like, "Where are you cowards running? There's only three of them," and then they're just killing everybody.
yeah. This is one
And
of the
then,
scenes where like I love the book is always gonna be better than like a live action rendition, but I know that we were talking about they might make a series about the Dark
yeah,
Tower.
the
This scene
five
in like
seasons.
yeah. This scene would be sick, like in a
Yeah,
show or a video.
yeah. And I feel like the show could do these action scenes like better than the books.
Yes.
If done right, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, because I think seeing this in full motion would probably be easier to grasp because I got a little kind of confused around the time like Roland was fighting them, and I'm like, how did he get so close to Jonas to grab the bag and all this stuff if Jonas is like has the gun shoot? I was like, okay. I was like thinking it in my head, like maybe it was just going by too fast for me, and I should have just rewinded it.
I feel
The
like just in
audiobook.
general, it's just harder to write action scenes in books, just because in real time when you're seeing something with your eyes, you just process more detail when it comes to like action, you know. But like
Yeah,
when it comes to like relationships and literally everything else, I feel like books are better because you get more detail.
yeah.
Because it's harder to
So
like present those details with like relationships and what people are thinking like in like a live like your eyes seeing it. But in a book,
yeah,
it's easy to read it. But with like action, obviously your eyes can like read all that detail really quick.
and like and another thing with this scene is like right before the boys came out and did all that, and there was a scene with Jonas and Coral, and they're like planning on meeting up and stuff like after he dealt with the boys because the boys set the tanks on fire and was blowing everything to
Yeah. Oh
shit.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And
everything.
yeah, and they were having sex or whatever, and then like
Yeah.
he was
Oh
like,
my
"Wow,
God. Yeah.
she's the best fuck in the land" or whatever, just like fucking
Yeah.
a witch.
Like God, it's like that orgasm was like a fucking
An explosion. Yeah,
explosion,
he's like,
and then the second one went off, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And then Stephen King's like,
they got to the point where they
they
can't
yeah,
stop. I'm like,
they
what the
can't stop.
hell?
Have you ever been in that situation?
I've never been in a situation where there's tankers blowing up behind me, so but
Damn.
I'm
Well,
joking. But like as
yeah.
far as like the point of no return, I guess it depends on what it is. You know, like is it like your mom about to like come in when you're a high schooler? Then yes, you gotta stop. But if
you
it's
got
like
you
I
gotta
don't
stop.
know, like somebody about to break into your house and kill you, then yeah, you gotta stop. Is it like, it just depends on what what it is, I
Is there a demon rock woman who will tell you that
guess.
she won't give you the secret to this cave thing or whatever, uh, unless you fuck her? Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
That's a flashback to the first Dark Tower book. I don't. Hopefully everyone. I don't know if you remembered that, but I just had to say it so it
I
wasn't
could
just
kind of
random.
remember. Yeah, now I
Yeah, it was.
remember when you mentioned the book, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't remember what he was getting out of it. I can't remember, but anyway. But yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that part.
No, that's a good part to mention.
Yeah.
I also want to mention the acid trip that he has. Basically, when he gets the pink ball in his hands, he like grabs it and
Oh
he's like,
yeah.
"Fuck!" The
Roland's is
turtle and like
the turtle
his
and
friends like, "What? What are you doing? What? Are you, let go of it!"
yeah,
But
the Roland's just hypnotized by this bowl, by the pink orb,
yeah,
and like we were talking about at the very beginning of this video or whatever a podcast, whatever you listen to, uh, is is like this thing has like a mind of its own, and obviously, and this is when it gets to the part where you really get to see it because it's talking to him. It's like, but it says it's like the turtle talking to him, but I don't necessarily believe that. Like, I kind of just think it's the orb that's telling him the shit, and we actually get to see. For I know, like in the on the book covers, like you see the Dark Tower drawn on it, but this is like the first time we get to hear its description.
yes, yeah, it's a
So
cool scene, and also it's showing him finding out his purpose.
yeah, and this is what makes it so everyone's like when they talk about people don't think the Dark Tower exists and it's only legends and stuff and like the beams and all that, but like this is like one of the first concrete evidence we get that the tower is actually real, and it's because Roland saw it with his own eyes through this orb. So obviously, as the reader, we know the Dark Tower is probably going to be real. Uh, but this is like the first time I feel like we got like canon established that the Dark Tower is real because Roland has physically seen it.
Yeah,
Because like the
definitely.
beams could just be anything. So like they say the beams connect to the tower, but we still haven't seen the tower. So as they're writing following the beam. So this is the first time we see evidence of the tower.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. That it's solidified now.
It's canon.
It's canon. Yes, sir. I do want to bring up again another theme I was talking about earlier with like there's another chance for Susan's death to possibly be prevented here because he goes through all these visions, he goes through his acid trip and I don't remember if it's when he touches the ball now or when he touches it again later, but he sees Shimi and Olive helping Susan later
Yeah,
on because Susan is
he's
obviously captured, and then yeah, he like sees them helping him, and he assumes that because she's with Shimi, it's all good. I don't have to go and try to find her. Right, I can focus on
mhm.
leading those men to the thinny and killing them. But in this case, the ball is being deceptive and doesn't show him that because it doesn't want him to do that. Right, so it's like it's another one of those scenarios where again you have a situation where he could have prevented Susan's death potentially, and then another situation where like his teenage brain is like certain.
Yeah,
He doesn't think about the contingency of like, oh, maybe the ball isn't fucking telling me what I want, what I should be seeing. So like,
yeah. Because he
yeah,
immediately, because when he grabs it, that's the first thing he sees is Susan, Olive, and Shimi.
right,
And then it drastically changes out of nowhere into showing him the Dark Tower
right,
and
right.
talking shit. And it's like, you search for the tower or you die. And Roland's like, I will find you.
Yeah.
and like,
Well, and it's
so
also and Stephen King even brings this up where like the ball is basically making him choose, right? He is making him choose between going and looking for the Dark Tower his entire life or having a life with Susan and having children.
yeah.
And obviously the
And
ball wants him to go look for the tower because the ball insinuates that if he chooses the tower, Susan will still live and Susan can go marry someone else and like have a good life.
yeah.
The ball does not show that if he chooses the tower right now, she will die. So
Yeah.
like it's.
Because
Yeah.
he's like, if I don't search for the tower, this is my call. He's like, if I don't search for the tower, all of existence will crumble and die. So even if I stay with Susan, what are my kids gonna inherit? Like they're gonna basically like go into the world's going to go into shit. So there's really no point in starting a family, and that would weigh on him for the rest of his life until it eventually happened.
Right.
So with him coming to like a realization that okay, she can still live and have a happy life, and then uh, that will help me be able to go and do what I need to do. So because potentially if the ball because obviously the ball like you said it's malicious so
Right.
it we don't really know if it has like a motive. It just kind of I feel like it just gets a chuckle out of bad shit happening or like showing
Definitely.
people bad shit.
Yep.
So uh it's just kind of like again like fate or like destiny that these books seem to it's caught and
Mm-hmm.
it's that the ball has this sort of personality to make Roland go into a specific direction.
Right.
So it's it's an interesting look on how fate works because it's like you have all these separate individual beings just placed into a situation to where their specific personality traits are leading them down a road that they potentially wouldn't have picked if it wasn't for those decisions. So then it's like, do they have free will? Does Roland have free will, or is this all being manipulated to force him to make these decisions? So to him, he has the freedom to pick the whatever he wants to do, but with Ka knowing he will only make that decision with the information he's given, is it free will or is it manipulation?
I think that's a really good point and a good theme that I wasn't even thinking about too. Obviously, like he brings up fate constantly with Ka, but yeah, it's a good point to like bring that conversation into like this scene.
I'm just a Midwestern boy who reads books. I'm just talking up my ass.
Yeah. No, I like that theme though. It's important I think for this. It's one of the central themes I feel like of this entire series, right?
Yeah,
Like Ka is constantly talked about fate.
like I just hope I explained it in a non-confusing way.
No, I think that's good, and I like also, and we hadn't talked about this prior, but Cuthbert talks about it too. Like he's like, "Oh, Ka doesn't exist." Sometimes he says it
Oh
like
yeah,
that. He's like, "Yeah, fuck Ka. That's not."
yeah, yeah. If he, it's super. I actually kind of thought that was interesting too, because it's like,
He's like the first
uh,
character within the midworld who like legitimately has a different opinion on it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
yeah,
most other people in this in the midworld, not in like Eddie's world, but in like midworld
yeah,
that believe that Ka is maybe
it's
not
bullshit.
is bullshit. Yeah, because like
Yeah,
everybody else is like Ka is for real. So it's
and
like
what I think's really funny is this kind of like mirrors, like his Cuthbert's situation kind of mirrors like a few, uh, kind of things that like people have done in our world too, where it's like so Cuthbert was basically faithless, right? And but then when it came down to them going and like fighting for their lives and all this stuff, he's like, okay, maybe there is something to this call. Oh, I pray there is. And it's like it just reminds me of that like kind of stereotypical scenario where it's like person A is faithless, then he's put into situation AX which makes him act faithful because of his fear of death.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
No, no, I agree.
So I just felt like that was Cuthbert's whole thing with that was I liked the different opinion and all that. Though the situation for me is a little stereotypical for like faith person. I already explained
Versus
it.
yeah, no.
Yeah, but I did like it nonetheless.
Yeah, it's another
It was
theme to
interesting.
kind of talk about.
Yeah, because then like they get out of it and it's like, oh, just and then it's, get out of situation X and it's like, okay, going back to cause bullshit
Right.
type of thing. So
Yeah.
it's like you're only like the people who are like only faithful when and I'm not just talking about like religion or anything. I mean that could be implied as well, but I'm just saying in general with Colin stuff is just an interesting situation.
Yeah, it's a one of those debates that's been around since people have been around, right? You know, like fate versus free will.
Yeah.
How much of your life is already determined based on like circumstantial stuff, or like what how much of your life is determined by your decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother topic
yeah, that's a big
for
one.
I don't know what for. Because we only read books here.
Yep.
Maybe if we start a podcast with Sam Kun.
Yeah, then we can kind of talk about those more
Yeah.
philosophical overarching questions.
Oh, have you ever read fuck, what's the name? You know, I don't know. That one bullshit philosophical book we read.
Oh my god. I can't even remember, man. It's by Leo Tolstoy.
Leo Tolstoy's In the Tall Grass.
That guy was very much he sucked.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we've already read it. We'll talk about it in maybe never. Never mind.
Yeah, probably
What
not. I mean, yeah, God. Maybe we'll just talk about shit on it. We'll make that an episode.
just yeah. All right.
All right.
So
Let's see what else I wanted to kind of. If there's anything you want to bring up, feel free to. But
um
I love the scene where Alan uses the machine gun. I think that's badass. But
oh yeah. I
uh,
forgot about that. Like he was like shooting it, but then it didn't really do anything for him. He just got fucked.
yeah,
It was
shot a
like
bunch of them. It was like, yeah,
yeah. And it was like the weapon they were so afraid of getting to like the war and everything seemed useless to mere gunslingers or something. I was like, oh shit.
shit.
That was
Yeah,
cool. I
it's,
was like,
they like the DMR instead of the
yeah.
assault rifle from Halo.
Oh, oh my
So.
god. Yeah. And then they were dude, and even like when they're getting the rest of the oil and stuff, and they were like, they didn't even think anyone would try to blow them up, so they had them all right next to
Yeah,
each
they're
other.
all
So
right
when
next to each
it is,
other.
and there's like, I bet they regret it. They weren't tactful because they didn't think there was any threat.
I like the part where Latigo is also like just shoots that guy because he's like not. It's just, I can't remember. The guy was just like, "What do we do?" And he just shoots him. And he's like, "Hey, you're in charge now."
Yeah. this, this whole fight scene was pretty good. Do you think the way Jonas has been built up as a villain, as like this failed gunslinger versus a 15-year-old gunslinger,
Gunslinger.
and it's like were you satisfied with Jonas's conclusion of just fighting for this orb, and then Jonas is like gets addicted to the orb a little bit and then just gets shot in the face?
Yeah, I would say
Were you
that's
satisfied with it?
no, and the way you're pitching it, it sounds like you're not either, right? Like,
I Yeah,
yeah,
I'm kind of half and half with it.
I think that's one of the criticisms I have for this story is Jonas's exile as a gunslinger could have been explored more, and then yeah, like the final sequence could have ended a little better because like the final sequence here is kind of Latigo, right, with his men,
Yeah,
and when they go in the thinny, they all die, and it's like written and it's described really well, but you could have had
yeah,
Jonas do that or just I don't
yeah.
know, yeah,
Well,
I,
because I feel like with Stephen King's more realistic kind of writing style, this does feel like how it would go down, you know?
yeah,
But then as like trying to really get in, like having a super satisfying kind of conclusion to
yeah, and
this
create like
villain.
the most drama, yeah.
Yeah. And so I appreciate it for like it's like I wanted it more, but like it's like I don't at the same time because I don't want to hurt like the overall kind of like flow or purpose or like the overall writing style. I don't want to like hurt how the story is supposed to be written because I would have liked something more dramatic, you know?
Yeah, that's
Because
fair. Yeah.
yeah, because if he did make the Jonas thing more dramatic, I mean, he'd probably been like, hell yeah. But then when it comes to like realism, which is what Stephen King does, uh, it wouldn't fit, you know. So I mean, I was left like half chub, uh, but overall, I feel like in the end, it's gonna be better.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
like, well,
no. it
you
was
know?
no Ermont the snake ending, like fucking me
Yeah.
type ending. It was more like I'm just kind of horny ending.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I didn't have it wasn't like throbbing piston,
Yeah,
so it wasn't bigger than a weasel,
no,
but you
smaller.
can call me happy crappy. Like just
Yeah, no,
whoever doesn't
I
understand that reference, just read The Stand.
yeah, you gotta read that chapter. I do agree with what you're saying though. I agree that like it wasn't, and I know it's hard to write that stuff. You know, it's hard to write like a satisfying ending that'll satisfy all readers. But I agree with you that like I think it could have been a little more dramatic, the final sequence.
Yeah. And
But
it's
yeah,
like I don't know. It just felt a little less dramatic than I would have wanted, even though
no,
it's like, oh, he's going crazy, he's bloody, getting blood all over Roland, he's a fucking psychopath, and Roland shoots him in the face, and it's like, fuck yeah.
yeah,
But then,
it could
then
have
he's
been
just dead
like
and
more like he tackles him off the horse and they fucking fight on the ground and shit and like
oh
like take their knives
yeah,
out like shit like that. Just draw it
yeah.
out a little bit.
Oh, you know what would have been cool? Is like you said, like they fight on the horse, they get out, they wrestle on the ground a bit, they go like their guns are further away, so they go for their knives and they're going.
Right. Yep.
And then Roland gets disadvantaged, gets his knife thrown away or something. Roland gets away, goes for his gun. The other guy goes for his gun too, Jonas, because and then
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they who reaches their gun first, and then bam,
Yeah. It could be like
Roland hits
a
him right between the eyes.
and
I'm
that would
like,
like fit the
that
western
would have been
theme
cool.
too, where you like how quick he can draw. Like they both grab their guns at the same time, but he's just a hair faster drawing the gun.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Look at us telling the one of the
One of
world's
the best
greatest writers
authors.
how to write a better
Yeah,
ending.
how to write his book. Yeah.
Like I felt like he had to do it the way he did it, or else the orb would have broke because there would have been no
Yeah.
realistic way of unless like because like Roland tackles the guy, it'd be Jonas would have to have held on to the orb and punched it, but then as soon as like the ground, he'd be an easy kill. I don't know. So I think just trying to keep the orb as safe as possible because it comes into the ending, where Roland sees Susan die. So
True. Yeah.
it's you know, gotta keep that orb.
Yes.
But
I think it's okay as an ending, but yeah, I mean it could be better. I think.
yeah,
Dramatic wise, but
yeah. Let's look at the bunnies, Jonas. Think of the bunnies.
Just
You got the reference, I'm
yeah,
assuming.
to Mice and Men. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I have it's on my it's in my books like right in front of me. That's why I thought about it. It's
That's
just
really good though. That's funny.
yeah, we should read that at some point
Yeah, we could
too.
read that at some point. I
It's a
actually read that in high school, but I'll read it again.
yeah.
It's a good book.
Yeah. I mean, talk about another like Shimi type character
Yes,
with Lenny.
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
done perfect
yeah.
in
It's
my opinion. I
done.
loved it.
Yes, I agree. A very sad book. Like this
Very
book,
sad.
man. This book is sad. Like
Yeah.
then and now I guess we'll kind of get into it now, I guess. But yeah, the ending
Yeah, might
sequence
as
of
well.
like not only is Susan like not done anything, she gets like, beat up kind of by Jonas. She gets hit again by Reynolds, and then she gets like all this shit thrown at her, all the vegetables, and she gets spit on, and it's just like, man,
Yeah.
like,
Cordelia slaps her a few times.
yeah,
Rhea does something, I think. And she doesn't even care at the end. She's like,
yeah,
fuck
she's
it.
just like, this is it.
Yeah, they're fucking burn her to death. And she's just like, I feel nothing but the love for Roland. And Roland,
Right.
after saving his two friends from being absorbed by the thinny, uh, they're riding and then he's just losing his shit because he's like, the ball's showing him this. And it's like, holy shit. Did you hear that?
Oh no.
Oh, sorry, it's thunderstorm
Oh, you're good.
outside. So I heard the thunder and I was just like, what the fuck? So I was like, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Anymore.
It shouldn't be raining that hard.
Yeah. In the
It,
desert we get the monsoons. So.
that's true.
But
It's just all right. Sorry.
oh no,
But-
you're good.
so yeah. So he saves his friends from the thinny.
Yep.
grabs the orb, and they're heading away, and he's coming to terms with leaving Susan behind. He's like, I'm not gonna meet her. We're just gonna leave. And Shimi is like, just give me one more kiss. I love you, Susan Delgado. And she kisses him on the lips, and then Stephen King likes to do this, which I do like, but I'm also kind of think in some instances it's kind of just like a spoiler where he's just like, and then Shimi never saw her again because of the
Yeah, yeah.
traumatic fate.
I'm
I
mixed on
like it,
that.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm the
like
same.
I,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, go
like
ahead. I didn't mean to cut
no,
you
you're
off.
good.
Go ahead.
No, because we agree on the same thing. It's like I like it, but I also kind of don't. I like it most of the time, but I feel like in this in this kind of scenario where everything's happening so fast and it's like, oh, I can't wait to know what happens next. And then because of that statement, uh it just makes me like want to slow down reading because I'm like, oh, well, now I know she's gonna die, you know?
Exactly, yeah. Which like we know she's gonna die,
Yeah.
obviously, way back, but like it's
We don't know
still we
when
don't know when and like yeah,
or
when
how.
he keeps doing it over and over, it's like I have mixed feelings on it. Like I like it, but I also don't. Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah. So it's like with Jake, I think in book 1, uh I can't remember if he used it at all when he was like holding on to Jake on the ledge and the Dark Man is just like, you got to let him go or else we'll never meet. And then Roland's just like, and it's like, then Roland knew that he loved Jake, but he knew his destiny or some shit like that. And it's like, and then you know he's gonna let go of Jake, and it works really well. And I think in most cases Stephen King uses it pretty well, but in this case specifically, it's like we know she's gonna die already, because it's obvious, from modern Roland that his friends and Susan die, but we didn't know when and we didn't know how. And having like this part happen right now, I just feel like that sentence, it would have, whole rest of the this part would have ended better without it.
I
Sorry, I'm
agree.
like, that's a big ramble, but
No,
that's it.
I agree with everything you said there. I think you can have a little bit of that foreshadowing, or I guess it's not even foreshadowing; it's literally just telling you. I don't know what it's called, but
Yeah.
I think it was fine with like modern Roland, but like I don't think you need to keep mentioning it, you know. But yeah, no, I agree with you. But it's a really sad scene, man. I remember reading a review of this book, and they were like, it's a really good book. Love like it how it goes back into the past, but it'd be hard to reread it just because it's so sad. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a sad story because it's like she doesn't do anything, so
Yeah,
it'd be
she's
very hard to read.
literally the definition of a victim by circumstance.
Exactly. Yeah, like if we want to go back to the Kaw thing, like
Yep.
it's very much circumstantial,
It's
and
it's almost like,
she's
sorry.
literally a very normal like 16-year-old girl. Like everything she does in
Yeah.
this story is very normal for a 16-year-old
So
girl. So it's just
she's a very modest 16-year-old girl,
yeah,
but
nuts.
it's like, what was I gonna say? Um, I really liked how Stephen King didn't kill off Cuthbert and Alan, because I would have been like, I'm like, okay, so as soon as Roland becomes a gunslinger, he leaves, and on his first mission, he loses both his friends and the love of his life. And I was like, that's just, I'd be like,
It's a
that's kind of
lot.
lame.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'd be like, I want some more, like I want some more adventures with him and his friends, and I was hoping to get some of that with Susan Delgado, which I don't mind her dying right now, and it makes sense because the next book, 4.5, came out, I think, after Stephen King finished writing the whole series.
Yeah, it did.
So if this is like the main backstory we're getting, it makes sense for him to kill her off. Uh, but I also would have liked to see how she would have reacted with the whole group in another adventure and then possibly kill her off then. But I guess she served her purpose for one's character development. So it was probably better just to get her out of the way, I
Yeah.
guess. So, but I'm really glad he didn't kill off Cuthbert and Alen because I would have been kind of salty. I've been like, that's kind of dumb. He's like, he's 15, loses everybody but his dad, and you know his dad's gonna die at some point,
Yeah.
you know, because everyone's dead in his life. So yeah,
I think it kind of
I'm kind
goes.
of just like,
Or no, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm just kind of like, all right, uh, I got out of it what I wanted. I can't wait to see how this book ends. I mean, obviously, it's just going to be like Roland concluding with you know Jake, Eddie, and Susanna, and then being like, "All right, now we're going through Kansas. We're on our way to the beam." Yeah. So I don't know.
We're driving through West Kansas. It takes about 9 hours to get through here.
Yeah.
No, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier with Jonas. Where like killing, there's pros and cons, right? To what you're kind of saying. Like, there's some pros and cons to like killing Susan now versus killing her later when she's with the group. More because like you said, you could have more like reactions to things from her perspective if she's still with the group for longer. But if you want like highest dramatic effect, you know, like highest like sadness meter
Yeah.
maximization, killing her right now is like ideal, right? Because like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is like
Because you,
if you want to
yeah,
make
because
it
you
as
get,
fucked up as possible,
yeah.
this is how you do it.
And yeah, because you get Roland who thinks she's gonna be safe, and so they're planning on leaving,
Yeah.
and then he just finds out that oh, because I thought she was safe, she dies.
Yes, and man, he like he does a good job of like drawing it out, making it seem like she's gonna escape so
Yeah,
many times because fucking she like is captured by Reynolds and stuff. Then Shimi helps, and then Olive helps, which you don't expect Olive to help, but she helps too. And then even when they encounter Reynolds, like she has the old blunderbuss, and she tries to shoot him, but it doesn't work, and then she dies suddenly. Which her character is
hmm
kind of tragic too. Like she's kind of a sad character too, because it's like
yeah.
she
Olive did
was
nothing wrong either,
she didn't do anything
really.
wrong either. Yeah, like she was just married to the mayor, and then he's just like doesn't care about her anymore because he's interested in teenagers because he's a creep.
As
But it's
as
like,
Stephen King once said, the more tight for the pushing or whatever.
yeah. But yeah, she just dies suddenly. But like, there's so many instances where it's like either this could have been prevented if they were just older, it could have been prevented. If they were
Yeah,
like 20, it might have been able to be prevented. They're just so young. And then on top of
that's
that, there's so
yeah.
many instances where she almost gets away but doesn't. So
That's
it's
where
like, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt
No,
you.
no, go ahead. That's all I had.
What I was saying is like that's like I like Stephen King really knows how to write the differences between like ages, uh, real well. And I feel like that's why like when like going back to like Wheel of Time, right? When the characters start off in the first book, they're in their late teens, so they're like 17, 18-ish, like around there. And as the story progresses, they get older and more mature. But with the TV show, they age them up already to their like early 20s. So a lot of the plot lines that made sense in the book no longer make sense.
Yeah.
And so they try to change some stuff and it just ends up being uh unwatchable. I just can't. Anyway, I'm not going to go big into it. So that's the one thing I'm kind of worried about with this adaptation is because when it comes to like a modern audience, uh, they're not, I don't know if they get to this part in the show, are they gonna still keep rolling 15? It's or 14? Are they gonna keep Suzanne at 16?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
or are they gonna age Roland up to 18? But then if he's 18, then like and she's 20, then a lot of these scenarios for me aren't gonna seem as believable because like like a study a couple of years ago showed like the average age that us like the modern women are like losing the virginity is like 14 and 15, and for men it's like 17 to 18 is like on average. So it's like when it comes to the and especially like back then, right? Like back then they're not going to wait for her to be 20 years old. Like it's just not going to, you know. Not
Yeah,
going to happen.
definitely,
Like
definitely.
with especially in this kind of world Stephen King created. So I'm worried in the adaptation if just by aging them up, how many years might make the story more like unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
it'll be interesting to see how they strike that balance as like far as age versus
yeah, because
yeah.
there are scenes where like in the book, you have the 6-year old dry humping the 16-year-old, and it's like, do you really want to watch that?
Yeah, I feel like
Do you
they'll probably
like?
remove that scene for sure.
Oh yeah,
I
they'll
think
probably
what they'll
talk.
probably
I
do
wonder if they'll mention it.
that, or like maybe they'll do something a little bit more tame, like he like gropes her or whatever,
It's
you
still,
know.
yeah,
They got to do something. I
yeah.
mean, they got to do
Like,
something to
I
illustrate
mean,
how this guy sucks. But
I mean,
yeah, I
it
mean,
could be like in Shawshank Redemption, right? Like the main character gets raped by those bullies a couple times, and in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
movie,
Mhm.
Morgan Freeman is just like, all right, well, he fought him off a couple
Yeah,
times,
and sometimes he
but
didn't.
and
Yeah.
sometimes he didn't, and he had to take it, and you know what's implied. So I wonder in the show if that's just what they're gonna do because I don't know. It's like I'd want them to be faithful to the book, but then on the other hand, do I really want to watch? Well, do I really want to watch that? No, not really.
Yeah, I don't really either.
so, so
uh,
I think I don't know. This is personal taste. Like
yeah, and
I
I
guess
think
it's okay in book form.
it's honestly pretty bad in book form too. Just the way he described it was fucking. But I mean,
Yeah. At
yeah,
least he
like
he never fucked her. They killed
no,
Thorin. He
no,
never got to thank God.
no, dude,
So
seriously, because yeah, it's just
I
yikes.
I I like how dark Stephen King will get with these stories. That kind of what keeps me interested in reading all his stuff is because I like how dark it gets.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree.
So yeah, I guess we'll see when the show comes out. Maybe we'll review it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that. I think it could really be a good show. I think a show is perfect for like portraying the story. I hope they just don't, fuck it up, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, the real question is, will they show Roland stick his gun up a pregnant woman's
Yeah, that one I
pussy
think they're
and
probably gonna skip.
but it's so integral to the
Yeah,
was
it's
that
super
right? To the
important,
plot.
dude. It's so
Yeah, and he's
important.
like, "I'll blow your shit factory." No, wait, this is a different book. I'll blow your demon baby to shit or whatever he says. That
Uh,
I kind of want to go reread the first book real quick just to kind of see because I feel like it's like the same thing with like what Berserk does in the manga is like the beginning of Berserk is Guts is like his like at his worst. So
mhm.
that's like he's brutal, he's mean, he's a dick, and he's just an absolute brute. And then you slowly go into like his backstory and then he gets, better as the time goes on. And it's kind of like I feel like the same with the Dark Towers. Like we see Roland at his darkest, literally lets Jake die, a little boy die, so he can get to further to the Dark Tower.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So yeah, so kind of want to reread the first book after, like right before the last book. I don't. I kind of like just want to see how far the characters come.
Yeah, no, I feel like we've had a lot of development for Roland, obviously, since he killed Jake. But yeah.
How so is there anything else you want to talk about for predictions or
No, I don't have anything else.
cool. What do you I wonder I needed to rewatch the last video we did to see what my prediction was so we could see if we were right or wrong. I can't remember. I think we both agreed Susan was gonna die. So I
Yeah,
think we got that right.
yeah. We said Susan would die. I said that Susan would maybe be part of the reason or the main reason he goes for the tower. But in this case, it wasn't. It was just like a choice. I mean, I guess now it'll add more to that, but I mean, well, no, I
Yeah.
guess it'll add more now because now there's no choice because
Yeah,
she's
he literally
fucking
has nothing
dead.
else to do.
Which is probably part of the reason the ball did that, but also like you said, the ball's like malicious, so this is the best way for the ball to like get him to hate his life. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you do you think that it was the turtle talking to him or it was the orb?
I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like
Because
it's
the
the
turtle was
orb.
kind of a dick.
Yeah, I feel like it was the orb.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
feel like it
love
was the orb
turtles,
too.
so that's
Yeah, I've never met a mean turtle.
yeah, turtles are great. Not this one though.
Yeah, no, this one's an asshole. Apparently, I don't know, but
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, we
you.
or go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was like, do you think we'll run into Pennywise at some point?
It would be cool. It'd be cool. I feel like it would have to be later on in the story. Oh, actually, that makes me think. Just going back really quick here, we don't have to talk about it too much, but I was reading like when I was reading through a synopsis of this, like creating notes for this podcast. It talked about how you know how after he went through his acid trip with the pink ball, he got some gray hairs on his head.
Yeah,
I think it said it was related to another one of his books like that. I can't remember if it
really.
was The Stand or
Well, it doesn't
but
remind me anything from The Stand, but it is, I did. It was a long book, so
well, maybe it wasn't The Stand. It was a different book, but maybe if we read that book sometime in the future, we'll understand that a little more.
yeah.
But yeah,
Need to make a list of books that are related that relate specifically to the Dark Tower.
dude, I'm
So
sure somebody's already done that. Probably
yeah, I think in all, I think there's 12 books, including the Dark Tower
that are related.
books. Yeah, so I think it's like three or four other books. I think I can't honestly, I don't know, but yeah, that'd be fun to like, because then it makes me kind of want to read those books before before we finish Dark Tower. But I'm like, if they're just like cameos or little things, then we could just finish the Dark Tower.
Yeah, man, and it'll make it more fun as well, even when we read those other books.
Yeah.
He always, I mean,
So
that's like what he's known for too, anyway, right? Like he has other books in his books.
yeah, because it's kind of like what was it in the doors, the drawing of the three for the Dark Tower.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it was Suzanne's backstory. I think when they're, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was like a nurse or something. It was like a man who they were talking to, and he's like, oh, I go by Georgie, and it's like, oh, I think that's the same Georgie from It in a different
Oh yeah,
universe,
yeah, yeah, yes, who
like
did?
grown up,
Yeah, grown up and not
who
being
didn't
dead.
die.
Yep,
So
that's exactly right. Yep. So
I
we
mean,
did have a
it's not,
cameo there.
yeah. So I don't know if that's actually Georgie or if it would have been Georgie, but what are the odds? I mean, you have a Stephen King books where a little kid is named Georgie, really, and it's like, and then this guy specifically says my nickname's they call me Georgie, and I'm like, yep, it just
Yeah,
so
no, that was definitely
yeah,
intentional. I feel like
and then The Shining, The
right.
Touch,
The Stand,
uh, The
obviously with
Stand,
the virus in
yeah,
Kansas.
Captain Trips.
Yep.
So the Thinnies leave a lot of good. Like, now I'm thinking like the orbs have probably something to do in another book, maybe.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
probably.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
the other colors are maybe in other books. Or
Huh? What do you what do you think the last part of this book
I think it's
is going
like
to be?
what you said. It's just gonna like wrap it up with Eddie, Susanna, and Jake and modern day Roland. And then I'm sure winning the keyhole is probably Alen, Alan,
Yeah.
Cuthbert, and Roland. Like how
So
they die.
are there gonna be any spoilers? Because I know 4.5 uh was written after the Dark Tower series was finished.
Yeah,
So I just want to make sure
I
before
might.
we read it there aren't any
I
spoilers.
might just look it up really quick and see if people think we should read that next, or if we should wait until we're done with the series to read that one. I'll just look it up really quick to make sure
Yeah.
we don't get spoiled, because that's a good point. We might. I don't want to,
Yeah.
get any spoilers.
Last thing I want is to Like, 'cause we still have like three more books,
Right.
so I don't want to get spoiled
No.
for anything.
I'll look that up. Make sure before we do that.
Yeah. So I guess there really aren't too many more predictions because I think there's only like a couple hours left in the audiobook, so it's
Mm-hmm.
just probably just going to be rolling, being like, yeah, so we left, uh, and I know I told you a long story, and there's still Cuthbert and Elen I didn't tell you about, but we can save that story for another day. And then Susanna's probably just gonna be like, "All right, I promised I'd tell you guys what's up. I'm pregnant." And then they're gonna be like, "Oh shit!" So then they're gonna travel. It's just gonna be them traveling a little bit, following the beam, and maybe they get out of the stand already. Like maybe this is just the only reference to the stand is just getting in the thinny, and then they get out of the thinny and they continue along the beam and they head back and they get back into midworld.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
So
I'm pretty
that's
excited
my prediction.
to go back to modern day. Honestly, it was really fun going through like this past thing with Roland, but I'm kind of ready to go back to the original
Yeah,
gang because I like the original gang a lot.
it was nice. It was nice because this was like just the right amount of breathing time to like we've gone three books in with like the main people, and then most of this book was Roland's flashback, which I feel like is a nice it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
So
no, it was well timed. I think.
yeah, and then I'm super excited for like the next main books, excluding 4.5, about seeing how the story is going to develop with the main cast and seeing how Cuthbert and Elen die.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
So I'm expecting now that we have the thinnies in the story, I'm expecting the next couple books to just be fucking weird as fuck.
It's definitely
But
gotten weirder as time has gone on, so I think you'll get your wish.
yeah, Jessica and James told me something about the like I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it just in case. But they were at a thrift store and they saw like book 6 of the Dark Tower, and they just like opened a random page and they saw something in there and they told me, and they were just like, "What the fuck?" Like it was just so random. It's just like it's actually super intriguing because now that I know that, I'm just like, "What the hell?"
Hmm.
But I don't want to tell you what it is. So
Yeah. Well,
when we
you'll
get to
have to
that
point it
point,
out. Yeah, when we get to that point.
yeah, but we're pretty far from that book. I think. I
Yeah,
think it's like,
got a few books.
yeah, we still got get to back to Wheel of Time.
Hmm.
So but yeah, that's just something for you to look forward to. I
Nice.
think it was. I'm loading
All right.
this up
Well, if we don't have
for
anything else, we can kind of wrap up here. I guess we'll read part 4 for next week.
4.5. Oh yeah, never mind. I was like, oh yeah, we still have
Yeah, we just got the
to
last
finish
part of
this
this.
book.
Yeah. Which actually kind of works out that this part's not that long because we're kind of working on a short week right now. But
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, cool. I'm good.
Cool. Well, if you all enjoyed this episode, please give us a like or a comment. It really helps to grow the channel. Feel free to give us any kind of feedback you'd like. This is very new for us, and we're just learning, so we appreciate any kind of feedback. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week with part 4.
Yep. Have a good night.
All right. See y'all later.